Chapter 51. In the end, Thor did not get the space gem back. He could only tell the truth, the Bifrost was broken by his careless hands. Without the space gem, he couldn't return to Asgard. He wants to use the space gem to repair Bifrost. In response, Raymond Lam wanted to refuse. But after some thought, I agreed. He has his own ideas and would not fall out with Asgard just because of borrowing a space gem. Although Lin Feng is not afraid of Odin. But making enemies everywhere is not his style. So, under the gaze of everyone, Lin Feng activated the space gem and disappeared with Thor and Loki. He went to visit Asgard, leaving the mess to S.H.I.E.L.D. and Tony to deal with. As for Nick Fury's video conference with several important people from the United States, Nick Fury's answer is: it would be better for the space gem to be kept in Raymond Lam's hands. If they don't want to, they can send someone to get it back. Anyway, S.H.I.E.L.D. is not coming back. A few of the important people stopped talking. Lin Feng's strength in this disaster is obvious to all. It's not something they can deal with easily. Unless nuclear bombs are used. But they don't know. Lin Feng no longer cares about the nuclear bomb threat. He held 2 infinite gems in his hand. Facing a nuclear bomb head-on is not a problem at all. To put it another way, even if it can't withstand a nuclear bomb, Lin Feng can also use the space gem to teleport away at any time. It can be said that in the entire Blue Star, there is only one person who can pose a threat to Lin Feng. That is Sorcerer Supreme, Ancient One. At this point, no one discussed the issue of Lin Feng taking 2 pieces of raw stones. As for the question of Raymond Lam not joining the Avengers, Nick Fury repeated Lin Feng's words verbatim. If there is a disaster, I will take action, but wanting me to join your Superboy organization is impossible. After a long silence, Z told Black Sauce Egg to try his best to win. The storyline of Avengers Alliance has officially come to an end. And Lin Feng also came to Asgard. As soon as he landed, Thor locked Loki up. Then he took Lin Feng to Asgard. Although it was a tour, Lin Feng was actually not very interested in the scenery of Asgard. He prefers high-tech cities with a modern feel. He felt that the Maldives was not as beautiful as Susan's. The two came to the huge Asgard. Lin Feng also met the overlord of the 9 realms, the king of God Odin. He sat on the throne, looking at Lin Feng silently. He saw clearly what Lin Feng did on Blue Star. He also knew that this young man from Blue Star held 2 infinite gems. Father! Thor bowed and pointed at Lin Feng. He won't give back the space gem. Damn it! Lin Feng was speechless for a moment. Why does it feel like the mentally retarded eldest son's tone is like he is complaining? Odin slowly turned his head and looked at Thor. I saw it all, Thor. Thor was delighted, thinking that Lin Feng would not dare to do anything rash again in front of his father. He's right, space gem has no owner. Odin's words were beyond Thor's expectations. Father! Thor looked at Odin in disbelief. It's the truth, Thor. Odin nodded slowly, signaling Thor not to get excited. Infinite gems were created at the beginning of the universe. He has no master. Thor didn't know what to say. He thought his father would take action to get back the space gem. After all, in his impression, the space gem is a treasure belonging to Asgard. However, his father's performance really made him confused. The father who had always been strong in my memory was acting out of character today. Seeing that Thor stopped talking, Odin looked at the young man from the Blue Star. A black battlesuit with a large S-shaped logo on the chest. God King. Hello. Seeing Odin looking at him, Lin Feng nodded awkwardly as a greeting. He doesn't know how to kneel, and he doesn't know what the etiquette of Asgard is. I could only nod and stand there awkwardly. But Odin didn't care. Welcome to Asgard. A distant guest. Odin had a slight smile on his old face, which was meaningful. There's no rush to fix Bifrost. There is still preparation work to be done. How about letting Thor show you around Asgard during this time? As for the space gem, it will be returned to you after Bifrost repairs it. As soon as he finished speaking, Thor became anxious. He and Raymond Lam don't get along very well. His father also wants him to take Lin Feng on a tour? He doesn't want to take this job. Father, I don't. Before he could finish his sentence, Odin's cold eyes swept over. Thor shuddered and immediately shut his mouth. I refuse, God King. My family is still waiting for me on Blue Star. Lin Feng refused. He didn't really want to stay in Asgard for a few more days. He is not very interested in this place. And Susan was waiting for him in the Maldives. I can repair Bifrost by myself, I don't need to prepare anything. Lin Feng said. He believed that Odin would not be greedy for the infinite gems. However, in order to prevent any accidents, Lin Feng was unwilling to take the gem off the wristband again. Odin, who was rejected, remained silent. He was not angry, he just nodded and said to Thor. In that case, Thor. Take him to Bifrost. My father's order cannot be refused. Helpless Thor took Lin Feng away, looking aggrieved as he left. He didn't understand why his father didn't let Lin Feng return the space gem. That was originally a treasure belonging to Asgard. In his opinion, no matter how powerful Lin Feng is, he can never be stronger than his father. Could it be that? Is there something about Lin Feng that scares my father? Thor's heart was filled with confusion. He was right, Odin was afraid. But he is not afraid of Lin Feng. But he was afraid of a future in which he would become an enemy of Lin Feng. He saw that future. It was like Ragnarok had arrived early. Orange-red light cuts across the land of Asgard. Asgard warriors died one after another under the collapsing energy. Thor's Mjolnir was crushed in one hand. Countless Asgard people will be left homeless. Thor couldn't see all this. Odin can see it. He wants Lin Feng and Thor to be friends. At least don't be enemies. Because the consequences are so terrible. Maybe he can suppress Lin Feng. But the price paid is too high. Therefore, he did not ask for the space gem. Thor still needs to grow up, and he can watch for a while longer. I just hope that Thor can take on this position as soon as possible. Don't let him down. The silly son Thor didn't know his father's good intentions. He brought Lin Feng to the broken Bifrost. Go ahead, start your show. Thor stood aside with his arms crossed, his face full of unhappiness. Lin Feng shook his head and refused to argue with him. He walked forward and stood at the broken part of Bifrost, ready to repair it. Lin Feng had previously asked the system if it could help repair Bifrost. Only when the answer was affirmative did Lin Feng agree to Thor's request. Otherwise I really have to lend him the space gem. Lin Feng was afraid that if he failed to do it well, the gem would be lost. System. How do I fix Bifrost? The system popped up. Host, guide the release of the energy of the space gem, and leave the rest to me. Lin Feng nodded, closed his eyes and began to communicate with the gem. The blue gem on Superman's wristband slowly began to glow. As Lin Feng continued to urge, the light became brighter and brighter, almost dazzling. The next second, azure energy surged out like a stream of water, flowing from the wristband to the Bifrost. The system constrains this energy and spreads it evenly on the Bifrost. With the help of the system, Bifrost is constantly repaired. After a long time, there was a buzzing sound. There was a vibration coming from Bifrost. The damaged bridge was completely repaired and huge amounts of energy were poured into it. Bifrost was reactivated. Seeing this, Lin Feng immediately cut off the energy of the space gem. Repair completed, host. Sincerely give me 1 million reputation points. The system's voice followed. Lin Feng was stunned. What is that? Why do you need reputation points? Didn't you say you wanted reputation points before? Lin Feng asked 3 times in confusion. He picked his ears to make sure he heard it correctly. What? You want the system to work for free? The system sneered. Please, if it's not space gem, it will cost 10 million reputation points to repair Bifrost. Now I'm giving you a 10% discount, aren't you happy? The system's tone sounded as if Lin Feng had gained a huge advantage. Lin Feng was speechless. He seemed to have been tricked by this damn system. 1 million reputation points were lost Indiana vein. Although it's not much, it's all Lin Feng's hard-earned money. My mood suddenly became unhappy. Okay, the bridge is repaired, Lin Feng turned and said to Thor. I'm going back to Blue Star. Don't go to Blue Star unless necessary. With a gloomy face, Lin Feng opened the portal and left. He couldn't stay in Asgard for even a second. Thor looked at the disappearing portal in bewilderment, full of confusion. Why would Lin Feng be angry when the bridge was repaired? Chapter 52. After solving the Bifrost problem, Lin Feng opened the portal directly to the Maldives. Susan was still waiting for him. The two met and had a crazy time in the Maldives for a few days. On a sunny day in nuclear peace, Susan lay on the beach, fiddling with her cell phone while enjoying the sunbath. Lin Feng sat next to her with a bottle of sunscreen in his hand. While painting, he checked the system's reward settlement. That's right, the rewards for stopping the Chitauri invasion have been settled. The mission reward is 10 million reputation points. The attention and enthusiasm from the citizens contributed 8 million reputation points. That's not all the rewards. The heat about the Chitauri invasion continues to ferment. After this matter is completely over, Lin Feng will once again gain more than 10 million reputation points. Definitely, this is just a rough estimate, but the system's speculation is not much different. At this point, Lin Feng has a total reputation value of about 90 million. Soon, Raymond Lam will be able to redeem the Silver Superman template. While he was looking forward to it, he also had some concerns in his heart. After exchanging for Silver Superman, do you want to fly to the sun to accelerate your growth? Avengers Alliance marks that Purple Potato Spirit has begun to implement his family planning. Lin Feng held 2 infinite gems in his hand, and he didn't think that the unarmed Purple Potato Spirit could pose a threat to him. But if the Purple Sweet Potato Spirit gets the Power Stone, Lin Feng will be in trouble. After all, the destructive power of the Power Stone cannot be underestimated. What Lin Feng was considering was whether to get the Power Stone first, or go to sleep in the sun first. Forest. Susan suddenly spoke, interrupting Lin Feng's thoughts. What's wrong, baby? Lin Feng asked. Susan waved her phone and said, let's go back. Go home. My mother said she had something to talk to me about and wanted me to go back. Besides, I've had enough fun after so many days. Susan sat up and stretched. During the time in Maldives, Raymond Lam took her to all the fun activities. Some projects were even played 2 or 3 times. Her mother just sent her a message saying that her younger sister at home had something urgent to tell her and asked her to go back as soon as possible. She also threatened to destroy the house if her sister couldn't see her. Susan was a little confused. What could her 7-year-old sister want from her? Lin Feng didn't care about it. He had almost finished playing, so he smiled and said, it's up to you. Would you like me to go with you? Susan's face turned red. No. I'm afraid you'll scare them. Give me some time. I'll go and test the waters first. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. The two packed up and prepared to leave the villa. This villa is built on the shallow sea. When you wake up every day, you can see the clear blue sea, which makes you feel relaxed. Lin Feng is considering whether to buy a villa here. Anyway, he is not short of money now. The dividends from Stark Industries alone would be enough to provide him and Susan with a comfortable life for the rest of their lives, not to mention the considerable income from Susan's website. After cleaning up, the two stood together. Lin Feng's mind moved, and the space gem on the wristband slowly lit up. A blue circular portal appeared before the two. As he stepped in, the scenery in front of him changed instantly, and he was back to the villa of the Twisting Waist guest. This is much more useful than super flight. Theoretically speaking, with coordinates, Lin Feng can reach anywhere in the universe instantly. After putting away the luggage in his hands, Lin Feng handed the key of the R8 to Susan. This car originally belonged to Tony Stark but is now under Raymond Lam's name. He planned to buy another car, and this one was given to Susan. If Susan doesn't like it, then buy Susan one too. Before traveling through time, he loved all kinds of cool sports cars. But he was too poor to afford even a more sophisticated sports car model. Susan drove him downtown. As a female driver, Susan's driving skills are pretty good. After dropping Lin Feng off, Susan drove towards her home. She wanted to see what her sister was up to next. Susan felt a headache when she thought of her naughty sister. Lin Feng wandered around the luxury car sales area. The place where he chose to get off was Lamborghini's showroom and sales office. Walking into the store, the space is very spacious. The first thing that catches your eye is the exhibition cars placed on both sides of the main driving line. Inside the store, a female salesperson with short hair sat on the sofa and glanced at Raymond Lam. After a brief observation, she turned her eyes and looked at the intern salesperson next to her. Kay, go. A customer is here. Kay nodded, and without thinking much, she walked towards the figure who was looking at the car. The short-haired salesperson sneered secretly. Based on her observation of Lin Feng just now, she didn't know where this loser came from who wanted to experience the thrill of driving a luxury car. Cheap clothes, no symbol of success on the wrist. The black ring on the finger doesn't look like a high-level product. Still walked in. Apart from his good looks, there's nothing else. Most likely he is not here to buy a car. She had a very sharp eye. Lin Feng was obviously not her target customer, so she just treated him as a training ground for her intern. Kay doesn't know what she's thinking. She didn't really come here to be a salesperson. It's just that she needs a salesperson's identity as a cover for the things she's investigating. In order to get this position, I even hacked into the back-end recruitment website and replaced the unlucky guy with myself. She walked forward, put on a formal smile on her face, and said, "Hello, sir. Welcome to Lamborghini. What's your name?" Hearing someone calling him, Lin Feng, who was looking at the car, turned around. Suddenly he looked weird. Sky. Sky also glared, Lin Feng. Good guy, Lin Feng scratched his head. Can I meet Sky when buying a car? Why are you here? To do sales? Lin Feng asked puzzledly. Sky laughed awkwardly, I guess so. She didn't expect Lin Feng to come here. It was just a coincidence. She had almost finished investigating her case and was planning to leave tomorrow, but she ran into Raymond Lam today. All right. Lin Feng couldn't help but look at Sky twice more. The little hacker had been using a fake name to befriend his girlfriend. Raymond Lam knew that she would join S.H.I.E.L.D. in the future. But he didn't want to deal with these things. S.H.I.E.L.D. and the like are too troublesome. Sky is now a thorn in the side of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know if she has joined that thing now. What is the Rising Tide organization? By the way, I never had the chance to ask. How do you know my name? Sky couldn't help but ask curiously. When they met for the first time, Raymond Lam called out her real name. She was very curious but never had the chance to ask. Hearing this, Lin Feng glanced at her and said with a smile, "What? A Lamborghini salesperson would inquire about the customer's privacy. Can you speak?" Sky rolled her eyes at his teasing and said angrily, "If you don't want to talk about it, forget it. What are you doing here? Buying a car?" As soon as he said it, Kai regretted it. Lin Feng is not short of money. He definitely came here to buy a car. What else can he do? Sure enough, Lin Feng didn't say anything, but the look he cast over gradually became full of pity, as if he was looking at a mentally retarded person. Kai blushed, pinched his fingers awkwardly, and quickly changed the subject. Do you want to buy this car? Lin Feng patted the Aventator in front of him and nodded, yes, introduce this car to me, I want to buy it. Sky looked at the car model, and suddenly her eyes turned, and she thought of a car that was definitely suitable for Lin Feng. Do you want to buy this model? You talk too much nonsense. Sky ignored Lin Feng's complaints and pulled him towards the back hall, saying as they walked, come on, I know a car that's perfect for you. Lin Feng let her pull him, wanting to see what she was up to. I walked all the way to the back hall, where a Lamborghini covered with a car cover was parked. Judging from the appearance, it should also be Aventator. Sky pulled the coat off. A Lamborghini supercar with handsome lines appeared in front of Lin Feng. A black Aventator LP 700-4. The cool appearance, matched with the black paint, makes the car look like a black beast lying there. It is different from the exhibition cars outside. The body of this Aventator is full of Superman elements. The streamlined parts of the black car body have been transformed into orange-red lines, giving it a very technological feel. There is a big black S logo on the front hood, exactly the same as the one on Raymond Lam's battlesuit. Even the seats in the interior are hand-embroidered with the S logo. Raymond Lam's expression was wonderful. He pointed at the car and asked, "What is this?" Chapter 53. Sky pointed at the sports car with a smile and said, "How is it? It suits you well, right?" Hearing this, Lin Feng nodded subconsciously. Although the body of the car is full of Superman symbol elements. However, the integration of elements is just right, and it does not look tacky, but makes this black Aventator more fast and powerful. I have to say that Raymond Lam quite likes this car. This car must have been customized by some wealthy person, right? Lin Feng said this kind of paint is probably not included in the optional list. As for used cars, they should be found in used car shops, not direct sales stores. It was probably customized or modified by some rich man. Sky nodded, you guessed right. This car was originally customized at a high price by a rich second generation only paid a deposit when the car was not delivered a few days ago. Something happened in the rich second generation's family. It is said that all the money in the account was taken away by the ex-wife. Now I'm busy selling real estate to pay off my debts. After hearing Sky's explanation, Lin Feng nodded. It was just as he thought. As long as it's not a used car. Stark's annual dividend arrived a while ago. He doesn't want to buy a used car. Swipe the card. Lin Feng generously took out his bank card and bought it if he liked it. Okay, boss, come this way. Sky smiled and led Lin Feng to pay. The bankruptcy of the rich second-generation father is not that simple. Someone paid a lot of money to ask Sky to investigate the matter. But she didn't say that much to Lin Feng. The price of this car is more than 40% higher than the ordinary model. Because of the customization of interior and exterior, as well as some optional accessories, they are basically top of the line. But Lin Feng doesn't care, he doesn't need this little money. Swipe the card, pay, and get the license plate. Everything follows the process. The vehicle was affixed with a temporary license plate. Sky said that the license plate would be sent to his villa tomorrow. Lin Feng did not dwell on this and just asked him to drive the car away today. It took less than an hour to complete all the formalities. Under the regretful and jealous gaze of the short-haired salesperson, Raymond Lam drove away. The performance of this LP700-4 is much better than the previous R8. Lin Feng drove the car to a racing track and paid the venue fee. He wanted to feel the charm of this big car. Press the accelerator to the floor. Immediately there was an aggressive roar from the engine. The whole vehicle shot out like a sharp arrow. Like black lightning, flying on the track thanks to Superman's reaction speed and vision. Lin Feng's vehicle control is more precise than that of professional drivers. There are still a few cars running on the racetrack. Raymond Lam's black Lamborghini was like a ghost, constantly overtaking them from the left. MD, where did this madman come from? Seeing that Lin Feng didn't brake much when turning, several drivers were scared and broke into cold sweats. After running several laps, Lin Feng finally had enough fun. As soon as the steering wheel was turned, a drift was made to leave the racing field. He is very satisfied with the performance of this car. In terms of control, it's pretty good. The only drawback is that the chassis of this car is too rigid. If he didn't have Superman's physique, I'm afraid Raymond Lam would have back pain after driving for a short while. After experiencing the thrill of speed, Lin Feng drove towards his villa. Although it was cool, it wasn't as exciting as the feeling Raymond Lam had when he first enjoyed the flight. When I got home, it was already dark. Lin Feng saw the lights on in the villa, and it was probably Susan who came back. He thought Susan had gone home for something and would not be back tonight. After parking the car, Lin Feng walked towards the villa. However, the next second, he saw a little blonde girl squatting on the lawn of the villa, fiddling with something. He took 2 steps back in confusion and looked at the house number in front of the villa. That's right, it's my own villa. Where did this little girl come from? Did she come from the wrong house next door? Lin Feng walked forward and planned to ask. The little blonde girl was holding a small shovel and shoveling the soil on the ground seriously, as if she was digging something. Hey! Kids! Lin Feng walked over, bent down slightly, and tried to make his voice sound softer, as he was afraid of scaring the child. The sudden sound made the little girl freeze in her digging movements. She turned around slowly, staring at Lin Feng with a pair of big eyes. No words were spoken for a long time. Lin Feng scratched his head. Why didn't she speak? Before he traveled through time, he would not deal with children. Hello. The little girl looked at Raymond Lam from head to toe and then from toe to head. Then he started to speak. Are you Superman? A clear child's voice asked directly. Hey. Lin Feng was even more confused. Little boy, are you looking for Superman? The little girl nodded and repeated, Are you Superman? Lin Feng subconsciously looked around and did not see the little girl's parents. After some hesitation, Raymond Lam denied it inexplicably, I am not Superman. Can you tell me why you're looking for Superman? The little girl did not answer Raymond Lam's question. After getting a negative answer, she immediately became alert. He turned around and ran straight towards the villa. While running, he shouted, Sister! Sister! There are bad guys! I'm Nima. Lin Feng slapped his forehead, his face full of pain. Sure enough, children are extremely fascinated. What's going on here? This must be the wrong door. Where are the bad guys? The door of the villa opened and Susan ran out, looking a little panicked. She picked up the little girl and looked around vigilantly. The next second, she saw Lin Feng standing in a daze on the lawn and couldn't help laughing. Oh my god, the bad guy that Elena was talking about, could it be Lin Feng? Is it him? Susan pointed at Lin Feng. Yes. The little girl nodded heavily and said affirmatively. Susan laughed and shook her head, he is not a bad guy. After that, Susan held the little girl and walked towards Raymond Lam. The little girl held Susan's neck and still looked at Lin Feng warily. Lin. Welcome back, Susan said with a smile. Lin Feng was still confused. He opened his mouth, pointed at the little girl in Susan's arms and asked, "What's going on?" "This is Elena, my sister. She is 7 years old this year," Susan explained, shaking the little girl in her arms. "Elena, say hello to Superman brother. You've always wanted to meet Superman, right?" "He is it." "Sister, you're lying." Elena held Susan's neck and refused to let go. "I didn't lie to you. He really is Superman," Susan explained patiently. "He's not. He admitted it himself. He's not Superman." Elena felt that her sister was fooling her, thinking that she was a child, so she just found someone to pretend to be Superman to deceive her. "But my sister certainly didn't expect that the person himself admitted it." Susan looked at Lin Feng with a strange look. Raymond Lam responded with an awkward smile, "I didn't know she was your sister, I thought it was a neighbor's child." Susan was speechless. She could probably guess how embarrassed Lin Feng was just now. "Sister really didn't lie to you?" Susan coaxed Elena. "Think about it, when has your sister ever lied to you?" Little Elena thought for a while and decisively exposed Susan. "When I was 4 years old. You said you would buy me a toy when you came home. But you didn't." The scene suddenly became awkward. Susan's mouth twitched, and she was speechless for a long time. Lin Feng held back his laughter for a long time. After all, she was his girlfriend. He looked at the little girl and helped Susan out. "Elena, right? I really am Superman." Little Elena looked at Lin Feng suspiciously and insisted, "I don't believe it. You just said you are not." "Unless..." Little Elena rolled her eyes. "Unless you prove it to me." Chapter 54. Prove? You want more proof, little guy? Lin Feng thought for a moment and said, "Okay, I'll prove it to you." After saying that, Lin Feng floated into the air, and a black cloak slowly fell behind him. The classic Superman battlesuit appears. It's exactly the same as what the little one saw on TV. Elena's eyes suddenly lit up and she screamed, "It's really Superman!" She screamed and struggled in Susan's arms, trying to get down. Susan couldn't hold her back and put her down. The little guy rushed to Lin Feng and looked at him curiously and excitedly. "Forest!" Susan shouted, "Play with her for a while, the food is not ready yet. I'll call you guys for dinner later." After saying that, Susan went back to the villa, leaving the two of them staring at each other. "Help, I really don't know how to communicate with children." Fortunately, the child's excitement soon calmed down. 5 minutes later, Elena ran to the half-dug hole again, raised her shovel and continued working hard. Lin Feng squatted opposite Elena, staring blankly at her digging the hole. He didn't know why the situation had turned out like this. The child's curiosity is terrifying. His hands keep moving and he can keep chatting with Raymond Lam. In a short while, he asked Lin Feng no less than 10 questions. "What? Are you my sister's boyfriend? Does superhero get paid? Do superheroes also have to eat carrots?" And so on. I also asked him if he would hug his sister's bear when he sleeps. She used to love doing this when her sister was at home. Lin Feng's scalp felt numb. He felt that this was not going to work. He couldn't let her ask any more questions. He had to take the initiative to fight back. The little girl had been constantly digging holes from the beginning, and Raymond Lam originally thought that she was going to plow the lawn at home. But her strength was too limited, and she had only dug a hole so small that not even a squirrel could fit into it. "What are you digging?" Lin Feng asked. When Elena heard Lin Feng ask this, she became interested. "I'm digging a hole." "Who did you learn this bullshit art from?" Little Elena seemed to realize something and continued to explain, "Mom said that burying yourself in the soil will make you grow faster. I'm going to bury myself in it. I need to grow up quickly. Then, I can fight bad guys every day just like you, Superman brother." Lin Feng felt his face twisting uncontrollably. He really can't understand the child's thoughts and behavior patterns. He decided to remain silent. The two men, one big and one small, stared at the cave entrance for a long time. Elena was sweating from digging. After working for a while, she seemed to realize that she was digging too slowly, and turned to look at Lin Feng with expectant eyes. "Brother Superman, can you help me dig it?" As he said this, he used his hands to make a circle on both sides. If it was Brother Superman, he would be able to dig a hole this big in no time. Lin Feng's mouth twitched. Dig a hole to bury you? Your sister must strangle me to death. Lin Feng took out a tissue to wipe the sweat off little Elena. Then tried to divert Elena's attention. Stop digging. How about I take you to experience being a superhero? Hey! Little Elena's face was full of excitement and confusion. Really? Can I be a superhero now? Just for the experience. Never mind. Lin Feng stretched out his hands. Come, let brother hug you. Elena didn't doubt him, threw the shovel aside, took 2 steps forward, hugged Lin Feng's neck and said, Is this all right? Lin Feng held her up and nodded. Hold on to your brother's neck tightly, don't let go. Elena obediently put her arms around Lin Feng's neck with all her strength, but unfortunately her strength was pitifully small. Are you ready? Elena nodded vigorously. Let's go. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng soared into the sky holding little Elena. Elena's excited scream could be heard in the air. Lin Feng wrapped the little girl with a biological force field to prevent her from getting hurt. The little guy had never experienced such a scene before, and his heart was beating fast. The originally fair little face flushed with extreme excitement, and she kept shouting. Raymond Lamb took her back and forth over New York and showed her around everywhere. Finally, it hovered above the waist twister, floating. Looking at the waist-twisting guest with bright lights under his feet, little Elena was not afraid. A pair of big eyes looked at the ground with excitement. It's so beautiful. Elena had seen this scene once when she was on a plane. But nothing is as clear and free as it is now. She felt like a bird, flying freely in the blue sky. Even though it's night. Seeing how happy she was, Raymond Lamb couldn't help but laugh. Isn't it beautiful? Elena's little head kept shaking up and down, very vigorously. Lin Feng chuckled and said mysteriously, There are more beautiful ones. Hold on tight, brother. Hearing that there was someone more beautiful, Elena hugged Lin Feng's neck again, her eyes full of excitement and anticipation. Lin Feng expanded the range of the biological force field a little bit, and he was ready to take the little guy to the sky to take a look. The next second, Lin Feng held Elena and flew straight into the sky, the speed getting faster and faster. The little guy wrapped in the biological force field did not feel too uncomfortable, but because the speed was too fast, the little guy closed his eyes in fear. It didn't take long before Elena felt her body becoming lighter and lighter, and she began to feel dizzy. She slowly opened her eyes. The scene before my eyes turned completely dark. Look up. The twinkling stars in the universe were reflected in her eyes. Looking back, the blue and white giant star was slowly rotating under my feet. The little guy opened his mouth, his 2 big eyes wide open, looking at the scene in front of him in shock. The little hands that were excitedly hugging Lin Feng's neck began to tremble. Lin Feng took out his mobile phone and switched it to selfie mode. Snap! Recorded this beautiful moment. In the photo, the bluish-white blue star occupies most of the space. In the upper right corner is the starry universe. In the center of the picture, Raymond Lamb, wearing a Superman battle suit, is holding a little Elena who is opening her mouth wide, looking excited and having her blood pressure lowered. Lin Feng took the little guy and flew around the earth for a while. The 2 of them were in a playful mood and even ran to Tony's personal satellite to say hello. The satellite belongs directly to Tony Stark, and he is the only one who has control over the satellite. He said he wanted to make an anti-Hulk armor. I wonder if this is a prototype. The journey in the universe ended quickly, and before the little guy had enough fun, he was taken back to the blue planet by Lin Feng. There is a limit to the amount of air that can be stored in his biofield. He can't create his own air. A short stroll is enough. Don't let the child suffer from oxygen deprivation again. In front of Lin Feng's villa, Susan had already prepared the food and was standing in the yard looking for the 2 of them. She wasn't worried when the 2 of them disappeared. Susan knew exactly how much ability Raymond Lamb had. Most likely, Lin Feng took Elena somewhere to play. Really, after a while, Susan saw Lin Feng holding Elena and flying down from the night sky. As soon as Elena landed, she trotted 2 steps and hugged Susan's thighs. Sister, sister. Elena was so excited that she hadn't recovered from the excitement. Susan smiled and picked her up. Where did you go to play? You look so happy. Go up there. Elena pointed to the top of her head and jumped up and down. Brother Superman took me flying so high. Susan smiled and said, How high? Elena thought for a moment and said, A big blue ball. Super big. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand and tried hard to draw a big circle in the air. The little one had only seen those huge amounts of blue stars in picture books, but had never experienced them in person. It is no exaggeration to say that this experience is enough for her to brag about in front of her friends for the rest of her life. Hearing the little guy's answer, Susan's expression was confused and complicated. A big blue ball? Her heart moved and she looked at Lin Feng. You wouldn't take her outside the earth, would you? Lin Feng laughed awkwardly and did not deny, I accidentally had too much fun. Hearing this, Susan rolled her eyes at Lin Feng in reproach. I don't really mean to blame you. Okay, it's time to eat, both of you go wash your hands. Chapter 55. After the three of them had dinner, Susan coaxed Elena to sleep. It was getting late, and it would take until the early morning to send the little guy back, so he simply stayed at Lin Feng's house. Children should go to bed early and get up early to grow their bodies, and should not stay up late. For the next 2 days, Elena stayed in Lin Feng's villa and spent the school holidays. Definitely, this was decided after obtaining Raymond Lam's consent. Lin Feng played happily with the little guy for 2 days. The little guy watched Lin Feng save the disaster area with his own eyes and was very excited. Even Raymond Lam took her to the deep sea to catch fish. Both the big and small one love to play, they are so happy. But happy times always pass quickly. The vacation is over in the blink of an eye, and the little one has to go back to school. That day, in front of the villa, Elena wiped her tears and said goodbye to Raymond Lam. Susan waited in the car and did not rush. Brother Superman, I will miss you. Elena said while sniffling. Lin Feng helped her wipe her nose with a smile. Superman brother will miss you too. Go back quickly. Remember to listen to your sister. Next time I have a holiday, I'll take you to the sea to catch fish again. After getting Lin Feng's promise, the little guy climbed into the car reluctantly, and waved his little hands vigorously at Lin Feng before leaving. Most people will never experience what the little guy has experienced in these 2 days. Let's not even talk about catching fish on the bottom of the sea. Let's just talk about taking a selfie in outer space without wearing a spacesuit. Who can do it? After seeing Elena off, Lin Feng sat down on the sofa and took a rest. Although it is fun to play with children, it is also tiring, mainly mentally exhausting. After a short break, Lin Feng took out his mobile phone and clicked on Tony Stark's profile picture. This old guy sent him a photo 2 days ago, which showed Lin Feng and Elena traveling in the universe. They also teased Raymond Lam about when he would start working part-time in the space tourism industry. Lin Feng was too lazy to pay attention to him. And this time he came to Tony because he wanted Tony's help with something. A phone call was made and luckily, Tony was in his villa. After hanging up the phone, Lin Feng flew over directly. With the popularity of the Avengers Alliance incident, his reputation value has approached 100 million, which is enough to be exchanged for Silver Superman. He learned from the system that upgrading to Silver Superman would require him to go to the sun and stay there for 2 months. Lin Feng also couldn't understand why this happened. Anyway, the system said so, so he just did it. Didn't Upgrade Man of Steel also stay in outer space for about 3 months? However, before going to Sun City, Raymond Lam planned to ask Tony to help look after Susan. Although Susan has the Superman wristband he gave her, it's always good to have an extra layer of insurance. Playboy, what are you busy with? When Raymond Lam came to Tony's workshop, he saw him fiddling with a round shield. Hey man, come check out my new toy. Seeing Raymond Lam coming, Tony raised the round shield in his hand. The shield is about the same file size as the vibranium shield held by Captain America. The only difference is that the paint on it is the gold and red color of the steel battlesuit. There is also the iconic inverted triangle reactor logo in the middle. Lin Feng didn't quite understand why Tony got a shield, so he asked, "Are you tired of being Iron Man? Do you want to be Captain Steel and replace Steve?" Tony rolled his eyes at that. "Why would I replace that old popsicle? It's made of metal I got from Nick Fury." Tony explained. "This thing is almost the hardest metal in the world. I managed to get some with great difficulty, but the quantity is not too large. The last time Thor smashed Captain America's shield with his hammer, huge amounts of kinetic energy were dissipated by the shield, so Tony paid attention to this thing. According to Jarvis's analysis, Captain America's shield has top-level kinetic energy absorption ability. After investigation, I found out that Captain America's shield is made of vibranium." This aroused the interest of technology geek Tony. After learning about the properties of vibranium, he turned to Lu Dan. After honking for a long time, I finally spent a lot of money to buy some. I originally wanted to buy more to see if I could use them on the next generation of battlesuits. Unfortunately, S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't have a lot of vibranium in stock. Jarvis searched for a long time before finding some traces of cobweb that indicated the source of vibranium. Tony is now using satellites to search for vibranium production sites. Tony used part of the vibranium he received to build this shield. After brief testing, vibranium was found to be much stronger than his steel battlesuit. Tony secured the shield to a rack. "Come on, Lin, give him a punch and try," Tony invited. Lin Feng raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure? Come on, let me see if it can withstand your attack." After saying that, Tony ran behind a shelter that had been prepared nearby. It looked like Tony was already prepared for him to be tested. Lin Feng shook his head and didn't say anything more. With his current strength, he can destroy the vibranium shield without the enhancement of infinite gems. Under the dual effects of infinite gems and solar radiation, Lin Feng is now much stronger than when he first became Superman. He took 2 steps forward and punched the vibranium shield. Bang! Circular sound waves spread out from the shield. Huge amounts of force were spread out by the shield to the surroundings, scattering some of the surrounding tables, chairs, tools, etc. A fist mark appeared on the shield, which was slightly concave but not pierced. "Ha ha ha ha!" Tony jumped out with a beaming face. "How is it, Lin? Is it hard?" In Tony's eyes, although there was a fist mark left on the shield, there was no doubt that it had blocked Lin Feng's fist. Does this mean he can build an anti-Superman armor? Seeing his overjoyed look, Lin Feng curled his lips in disdain and took the shield from the shelf. "Use both hands to exert force together." Swoosh! An unpleasant metallic shape-shifting sound was heard, and the vibranium shield was broken in half by him. "You may not know." Lin Feng threw the bent shield on the ground. "I didn't even use a third of the force in that punch just now." Tony looked at the vibranium shield thrown on the ground in silence, shaking his head and smiling bitterly. "Good fellow, I still underestimated your strength. Is there anything on Blue Star that you can't penetrate?" Lin Feng raised his eyebrows. "Probably no more, but vibranium is indeed very hard, and from what I've just seen, it has excellent properties for absorbing and dispersing kinetic energy." "Why, do you want to use this to make a battlesuit?" Lin Feng asked. "That's the idea." Tony nodded. "But for some reasons, I plan to only replace the main parts with vibranium metal. But we'll only know after actual testing." After saying that, Tony picked up the vibranium shield and put it aside, letting Jarvis record the data just now. "Tell me about yourself, what do you want from me?" Lin Feng usually wouldn't come to see him unless it was necessary. This guy would stay at home with his girlfriend all day, being affectionate with each other. Seeing Tony bring up business, Raymond Lam said, "Tony, I want to go to outer space." "Tony? Why do your words sound familiar?" Lin Feng touched his nose. "Listen to me." Tony gestured for you to continue. "I'm going to go to outer space. It will take about 2 or 3 months. In the meantime, I think you could send someone to look after Susan for me. Don't let her be bullied. Is there anyone who dares to bully Superman's girlfriend?" Tony said speechlessly, "Are you using me to make fun of me?" Lin Feng shook his head and said seriously, "I'm serious, Tony. S.H.I.E.L.D. is more complicated than you think." Lin Feng's words were suggestive, and Tony's eyes flickered. "You mean, the threat comes from S.H.I.E.L.D.? Is it Nick Fury? Do you think that if you don't join the Avengers, he will do something bad to you?" Lin Feng shook his head and explained, "I haven't worried about this. Nick Fury wouldn't be that stupid. The threat comes from S.H.I.E.L.D., yes, but not Nick Fury." Lin Feng couldn't understand why Black Sauce Egg was not doing his job well. He was just short of telling Hydra that they peed on your head. There are still a large number of Hydras wandering around in S.H.I.E.L.D. It seems that not joining S.H.I.E.L.D. at that time was the right choice. Chapter 56. After bragging to Tony for a long time, Raymond Lam left Tony's villa. He didn't reveal too much information. Let Mr. Iron Man search step by step. Our Mr. Iron Man also needs to grow up. Just as Lin Feng thought at the beginning, the evil ones will never be completely eliminated. He could just lock down all of Hydra and send them all to hell. But he didn't do that. He always gave others the opportunity to grow together. A Hydra falls, a Medusa rises. Only by growing up can we face these disasters. After returning home, Lin Feng counted his reputation points to live his life. The silver Superman template had been something he had been eyeing for a long time. Behold the breath of frost that could blow out the sun. It also has enough power to pull the entire solar system and even the Milky Way. Who wouldn't want it after seeing this? Who wouldn't be confused after seeing this? As the revenue is about to break through the 100 million mark, Raymond Lam's days are filled with anticipation and nervousness. The reputation value is still growing steadily. About a week later, Lin Feng was sitting in his villa drinking afternoon tea. The system's prompt finally rang in his ears. His reputation value successfully broke through 100 million points. You can redeem the silver Superman template for upgrade at any time. Raymond Lam, who has been looking forward to this. At the moment, my mood calmed down. Maybe it's because of the sense of unreality caused by expectations. Lin Feng put down the teacup and let out a long sigh. He plans to look for other infinite gems after this evolution is completed. He currently has 2 infinite gems. Mind Gem, Space Gem. Reality Gem should be in Asgard. Lin Feng remembers that he appeared in a fluid state. The Time Gem is currently in the hands of the Sorcerer Supreme, the Ancient One. Her successor, Strange, is probably still working as his surgeon. This is a trouble. The Ancient One magician will definitely not give the Time Gem to Lin Feng easily. As for the remaining Power Gem, Lin Feng remembered that it should be on an abandoned planet. Something like Morag. The Power Stone is there, wrapped in the cosmic orb. That big fool Star-Lord won't go get it for another 2 years. The Soul Gem is more troublesome, as it requires sacrificing one's loved one to obtain it. This method made Lin Feng unable to help but complain. Sacrifice? How? In the original book, Thanos sacrificed Gamera in order to get the Soul Gem. If Lin Feng wants to get it, doesn't he have to push Susan down? He can't do it. As it stands, the easiest ones to get are the Power Gem and the Reality Gem. Lin Feng also plans to start with these 2 gems. As for Soul Gem, we'll talk about it later. In short, Lin Feng will not give Thanos a chance to snap his fingers. Thinking of this, Lin Feng looked at Susan opposite him. He planned to say hello to Susan and go meet Mr. Sunday. Susan was fiddling with her laptop. She is maintaining her video forum. Susan, Lin Feng called softly. What's wrong? When she heard Lin Feng calling her, she just nodded without even raising her head. I think I'll go out again. Where are you going? To the city. Susan still didn't look up. By the way, can you bring me a bottle of shower gel? I usually use that brand, and it's almost out. Lin Feng shook his head and laughed. That's not what I meant. I mean, I'm going to be away for a while, maybe a little longer. This time, Susan looked up, somewhat puzzled. Where are you going? Is it the same as last time? Susan remembered that Lin Feng said the same thing the last time he went out for a week. Lin Feng nodded and said, yes, but this time it will take longer than last time. It will probably take about 2 months. Susan was a little surprised when she heard this. Why is it taking so long this time? Don't worry, there's no danger this time, Lin Feng said. It's just running to the sun to evolve, there's no danger, but I can't say this to Susan. Susan nodded. She knew that Lin Feng had his own things to do and she couldn't stop him. Just like last time, I told him to be careful in everything. After a tender moment with Susan, Lin Feng didn't waste any more time and prepared to start his evolution. Before leaving, he bought another piece of platinum kryptonite for Susan. In this way, Susan now has 2 platinum kryptonites in her hands. Enough to deal with most threats from Earth. It's like a double insurance. Lin Feng, wearing a black battle suit, flew out of the Earth. The yellow dwarf star shone brightly in front of him. Lin Feng's mind moved, and a blue portal appeared. He opened the portal about 1 million kilometers away from the sun. Step into the portal. Lin Feng only felt that the scene in front of his eyes suddenly became bright and hot. Squint your eyes and look. This huge fixed star, which has a lifespan of more than 4 billion years, is rotating at a slow speed. The surface of the sun constantly emits plasma. It is undergoing nuclear fusion all the time. When you look at the sun up close, it is not the yellow color you see on the blue planet. Lin Feng didn't know what color to use to describe it. He calmed his mind and called the system in his mind. System, redeem the silver Superman template. As soon as he finished speaking, the 100 million reputation points were instantly reset to 0, leaving only a pitiful few 100,000. The system's voice also came. Silver Superman template has been exchanged. Please fly into the sun as soon as possible to start evolution. The estimated evolution time, 60 days. Lin Feng felt a little sad that the reputation he had accumulated for such a long time was reduced to zero, but it was all worth it. Lin Feng looked solemn as he flew towards the sun, ready to start evolving. According to Marvel's strength, Silver Superman's strength is probably at the level single universe. Enough to face most threats in the universe. In the movie, many powerful bosses did not appear, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. As long as there is no multi-universe level boss taking action, Lin Feng, who has evolved into Silver Superman, can do whatever he wants. As for the next multi-universe level, Golden Superman. Redemption requires 1 billion reputation points and third-level store permissions. It is not something that Lin Feng can have now. Lin Feng is already very satisfied that he can evolve into Silver Superman. Lin Feng flew to the surface of the sun, and the temperature was not high enough to make him feel uncomfortable. The body slowly sank into the sun. That feeling gave Lin Feng a comfortable feeling, just like taking a hot bath. His battle suit had long been returned to the system space, and the clothes on his body were instantly turned into ashes under the high temperature. Now, he was completely naked, except for a wristband on his left wrist, with 3 gems emitting light from it. The blazing energy and radiation enveloped Lin Feng, and his ability was slowly growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. He closed his eyes and slowly fell into a deep sleep under the influence of the system. Just like last time, Lin Feng began to evolve. Chapter 57. In such a vast universe. In a dark corner somewhere. A place where even the stars cannot illuminate. There were 2 strange beings, one tall and one short, wearing black robes but with their faces invisible. One of them picked up a compass-like instrument and took a look. I don't know how he can see clearly in such darkness. How is it? Asked the tall man in black robe, his voice hoarse, like sandpaper rubbing against the wall. The man in black robe holding the instrument laughed twice in the same hoarse voice. It's going very smoothly. So far, everything is as planned. The tall man in black robe nodded and wanted to ask something. The vision suddenly increased at the moment. A crack suddenly appeared in the void. A huge red eye burning with flames looked over. The flame was actually black, and the aura contained in it made people shudder. Discovered. The tall man in black robe paused, then looked at his companions. Let's go. As soon as the words fell, the 2 men in black robes slowly disappeared from the spot. The eyes in the void, seeing the black robe disappear, revealed a trace of helplessness in a human way, and then slowly disappeared into the void. Above the cantilever of the Orion arm, the solar system keeps rotating. The symbol of the solar system is the fixed star, a yellow dwarf star. A pair of eyes slowly opened. It was Lin Feng who was upgrading to Silver Superman in the sun and woke up. His eyes lit up and he leaped out, leaving the sun. At this moment, he was still naked. Only on the left wrist was there a wristband inlaid with 3 gemstones. After flying for a distance, Lin Feng had an idea and put on the black Superman battlesuit. After sleeping in the sun for 2 months, my head is still a little fuzzy. Lin Feng shook his head to wake himself up. At the moment, Raymond Lam was extremely happy. He woke up, which means he is now Silver Superman. Lin Feng lowered his head and looked at his hands. He clenched his fists, wanting to feel a new kind of power. Gradually, Lin Feng frowned. He uttered a light exclamation, and a hint of doubt flashed in his eyes. He felt that his strength didn't seem to have been greatly enhanced. Looking around, Lin Feng aimed at the nearest meteorite and flew over. The meteorite is neither too big nor too small, perfect for practicing. Lin Feng raised his hand and hit it hard. The meteorite suddenly shattered and disintegrated into countless fragments, splashing in all directions. The power is unstoppable. But, something is not right. This punch confirmed Lin Feng's guess. His strength has not been significantly improved. According to the template of Silver Superman, with such a powerful punch from him, the meteorite should be turned into powder instantly. Lin Feng was confused. Did he fail to evolve into Silver Superman? But the system never said that evolution could fail. Since he has woken up, it proves that evolution was successful. Lin Feng couldn't think of the reason, so he called out to the system in his mind. He wanted to inquire what was going on and whether the system was cutting corners. However, after waiting for a while, no sound from the system came. Lin Feng was speechless. Could it be that the system was sleeping again? System! Lin Feng shouted again in his mind. After waiting for a while again, there was still no response. Quiet, the entire space was deathly silent. Lin Feng's expression became serious. System, come out quickly. System, where the hell are you? After calling several times in a row, there was still no response from the system. There was no reply, no sound, only silence. Lin Feng felt something was wrong. System! Stop teasing me, get out of here now. System! Raymond Lam constantly tries to call the system, however, no matter how he called, the system still did not respond. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong. Lin Feng thought that if he evolved successfully, he should have been awakened by the system. But from the moment he woke up, the system was silent. The system, which was usually very responsive, fell silent at this moment. After thinking for a while, I still couldn't get an accurate result. Lin Feng decided to return to Blue Star first. Space gem shines. The familiar blue portal appeared. Lin Feng opened the portal to his own villa. Walking out of the portal, Lin Feng arrived at the familiar villa lawn. The sun was rising in the sky and it seemed to be noon. While thinking about the system problem, Lin Feng walked towards the door of the villa. As he approached the door, Lin Feng heard the sound of laughter and conversation coming from inside, including that of men and women. He raised his eyebrows. Susan invited friends to her house? Confused, Lin Feng took out the key. When he opened the door, the scene inside stunned Lin Feng. In the villa, 3 or 4 people are playing games together. There are adults and children, and they look like a family. Seeing the villa door was opened, the people who were playing and joking stopped. Among them, a middle-aged man in his 40s stood up. He looked at Lin Feng with a smile on his face, and his right hand reached towards his lower back inconspicuously. Friend, who are you looking for? The middle-aged man stared at Lin Feng and asked. Lin Feng opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything. He discovered that the entire villa was completely different from what Lin Feng remembered. The color and style of the sofa, TV on the wall, fireplace. There is even a family photo hanging on the wall of the hall. Lin Feng stared at the family portrait for a few more seconds. The person sitting in the middle of the photo is the middle-aged man who asked the question. He looked down at the key still inserted in the door and thought of something. Susan! Lin Feng shouted loudly. He suspected that Susan was learning the contents of the video website and was playing a prank on him. Otherwise, not to mention that I opened the wrong portal, I can't even explain how the key opened the door. Wow, Susan really knows how to play. Has she forgotten that she has the ability of perspective? This little girl is probably hiding somewhere, ready to laugh at me. But now, the upgrade has not been completed, the system has not moved, and Lin Feng obviously has no intention of cooperating with this game. He sighed, activated his perspective ability, and looked for Susan. However, after looking around the entire villa, he did not find Susan. Is Susan outside? Lin Feng looked outside, but still didn't see Susan. He began to feel a little irritated. Susan! Come out! I'm not in the mood to play games right now. I have some problems. Lin Feng shouted and walked into the room. Stop! The middle-aged man who had been smiling just now suddenly changed his expression. He shouted loudly, pulled out a pistol from behind and pointed it at Lin Feng. The middle-aged man was alarmed when he saw Lin Feng suddenly breaking into his villa. The muscle lines under the black tights are full of explosive power. Doesn't look like an ordinary person. He didn't know why Lin Feng suddenly broke in, whether he was a thief, a robber, or an innocent citizen who had gone to the wrong place. But his family is here. He didn't dare to gamble, so he could only draw his gun. Being pointed at by a gun, Lin Feng stopped immediately, his eyes flashing dangerously. A small figure hiding behind the middle-aged man poked his head out. She is the little girl in the family photo, and should be the daughter of a middle-aged man. She looked at Lin Feng with some fear and whispered, "Are you looking for Susan? We don't have Susan here. Friend! We don't have the Susan you're looking for here, please leave our home." Although it was a question, there was no doubt in the middle-aged man's tone. He narrowed his eyes and stared at Lin Feng closely. As long as Lin Feng made any unusual movements, he would shoot without hesitation. Chapter 58. Lin Feng stood there, staring at the middle-aged man with a gun with an expressionless face. A drop of cold sweat ran down the middle-aged man's cheek. Lin Feng's eyes were like those of a ferocious beast, which made him feel a sense of fear in his heart. He is not afraid of bullets. I don't know why, but this idea came into the mind of the middle-aged man. His finger pulled uncontrollably toward the trigger. Sudden buzz. A strange sound suddenly came from high in the sky, accompanied by a slight air fluctuation, interrupting the confrontation between the two. For a moment, Lin Feng felt that the voice was very familiar. He had an idea and turned around and walked out of the villa, looking in the direction where the sound came from. Suddenly, his pupil shrank. A huge blue portal appeared above the twister. To be precise, it's above the Stark building. Familiar portal. Familiar scene. Under supervision, like a magnifying glass, the distant scene was brought to the bottom of Raymond Lam's ears and eyes. In the portal, the familiar Chitauri army rushed down on flight devices. This scene confused Lin Feng, and he immediately had absurd guesses in his mind. This is impossible. Bang! A sonic boom was heard, and Lin Feng flew up and headed straight for the Stark building, leaving behind the middle-aged family stunned. The younger daughter tugged at the middle-aged man's sleeve. Dad, is he a monster? The middle-aged man stood there in a daze. Maybe. After a while, he shook his head, walked out of the villa and looked up at the sky. He wondered what the intruder had seen. However, the next second, his expression became serious. Lily, pack up your things, let's go to the basement. The middle-aged man ordered decisively. Lin Feng flew to the scene and landed on a tall building. The scene before my eyes was simply unbelievable. Above the Stark building, a blue beam of light shot up into the sky. At the end of the light column, there is a portal. In the portal, countless Chitauri troops flew to the ground and started killing. Tony Stark, Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and even the Hulk, all joined the battle to stop the invaders. Captain America jumped onto the J-car and directed the evacuation of the people. Iron Man constantly sniped the Chitauri army on the flight device in the air. Bruce transformed into the Hulk and knocked down a Leviathan with one punch. The familiar scenes all confirmed Lin Feng's guess. This is the battlefield of the Avengers Alliance. For a moment, Lin Feng felt mixed emotions and his mind was in chaos. What the hell is going on here? Could it be that I have returned to the timeline of Avengers Alliance? Lin Feng's eyes kept searching subconsciously. He didn't see himself. My heart sank again. He clearly participated in the Avengers Alliance event, but he was not seen on the battlefield. Lin Feng's face was as black as coal. He realized that he might have come to the waist twister in a parallel universe. Although it was a little hard to believe, he couldn't deny the sight before him. Lin Feng thought about it for a while and suddenly thought of another way to verify the system. He stretched out his hand and swiped downward in the air. A translucent personal panel appears in front of you. Fortunately, the personal panel still exists, which means the system has not been uninstalled. It's just that flashing ripples and lines appear on the panel from time to time. It looks like an old TV with a bad signal. The panel can be called out, but the system does not respond. What exactly went wrong? For a moment, countless speculations flashed through Lin Feng's mind. He tried hard to recall the process of his evolution from leaving the blue planet, flying towards the sun. There is nothing wrong with it. However, after waking up, the system was no longer active. Lin Feng's brain was working at high speed, deducing countless results. Finally, we get the one with the highest probability. I'm afraid all this has something to do with the exile. During the 2 months when Lin Feng was evolving and dormant, something happened that Lin Feng didn't know about. What caused the system to disappear, or fall into dormancy? No matter which result it is not good news for Raymond Lam. Lin Feng floated up in the air, and with a glance, he saw a scene that shouldn't appear in Avengers Alliance. A rooftop not far away. The Hulk, who was supposed to be on the battlefield, was standing with the Ancient One magician, talking about something. Lin Feng looked back at the Hulk who was smashing the Chitauri on the Stark building. He looked at the Hulk who was talking to the Ancient One. He had no expression on his face. He slowly flew over and landed between the two of them. The Ancient One is not only a magician in the Marvel world, but also a wise man. Lin Feng felt that perhaps he could get some help from her. Suddenly a stranger flew in the air. Ancient One and Bruce both stopped talking and looked at the newcomer. Bruce? Lin Feng asked. He looked at the Hulk in front of him, who was obviously more rational and smaller in size, and sighed inwardly. Who are you? Bruce asked doubtfully. He didn't know the young man in the battle suit, but he looked like a superhero. Lin Feng shook his head helplessly and said, Don't tell me you came from 2023. Bruce was surprised. How do you know? Lin Feng touched his chin and was speechless for a moment. Bruce's words confirmed another guess in his mind. The Hulk in front of us is Bruce, who merged with Hulk in Avengers Alliance. That means the future Captain America and Tony are also here. Without answering Bruce's question, Lin Feng turned to look at Ancient One and smiled helplessly. Magician. He didn't know if the Ancient One magician could recognize him, but it seemed that there was a high probability that he wouldn't. Sure enough, Ancient One looked at Lin Feng in surprise, then frowned. She cast a magic circle with both hands, and then it rotated constantly. The Ancient One closed his eyes, and the time gem appeared in the magic circle, emitting a green light as the magic circle rotated. What is she doing? Bruce was confused and turned to ask Lin Feng. She should be looking at the future, or the past. Lin Feng replied after a while. Ancient One opened his eyes, and his gaze towards Lin Feng became serious. You shouldn't be here. The Ancient One spoke slowly. In the future and in the past, there is no trace of you. Even in this universe, you don't exist. She could not find Lin Feng in countless futures and pasts. This evidence reveals the most likely outcome, which is that Lin Feng comes from a parallel universe. But the strange thing is that even if Lin Feng came from another parallel universe, he could not escape the future seen by the time gem. However, Raymond Lam was like a ghost, and even time gem could not track his existence. After some hesitation, Ancient One magician finally gave the answer. Young man, can you tell me why you are here? The appearance of Raymond Lam made her start to worry about her future. This was a phenomenon that had never happened before, and even the Ancient One was puzzled by it. Hearing Ancient One's question, Lin Feng smiled bitterly and shook his head. I don't know why I'm here. Magician, since you know I'm from another universe, can you send me back? Ancient One thought about it, but shook his head. I can't send you back. I can't see which universe you exist in. Chapter 59. You don't even belong to any universe here. The Ancient One's words are meaningful. Although she couldn't tell where Lin Feng came from, she could feel that Lin Feng did not belong to all the parallel universes. This answer undoubtedly made Lin Feng a little disappointed. At this moment, Ancient One suddenly saw Lin Feng's wristband. The two gems on it, one yellow and one blue, startled her. Are those infinite gems on your wrist? Raymond Lam followed the Ancient One's gaze. He hummed, raised his left hand, and did not hide it. Yes, space gem and mind gem in another world, I am also a superhero. Lin Feng explained these two gems were obtained in this incident. As he spoke, Lin Feng also pointed at the Avengers who were fighting against the Chitauri army. I am more powerful than any of the Avengers, and no one is better suited to protect them than me. The gem is in my hand, Thanos can't snap his fingers. His words were full of confidence. Possessing the Superman template and holding two infinite gems, the probability of the purple potato spirit being able to snap his fingers is infinitely close to zero. Hearing this, Ancient One's eyes flickered. She thought for a while and said to Lin Feng, can you show me the two gems? Your existence is very special. They seem to be tainted with your aura. Maybe I can see something through them. Ancient One explained, as if afraid that Lin Feng would misunderstand. Lin Feng just hesitated for a moment, then took off two gems and handed them out. He wasn't too worried about what the Ancient One might think of the two infinite gems. If the Ancient One wanted the infinite gems, she could have just gone to S.H.I.E.L.D. some time ago. And now there are two infinite gems on the Stark building. Giving the gem to Ancient One was also a helpless move. He had no idea about the current situation. It would be great if Ancient One could give him some useful information. Ancient One took the gem, turned her hands over, and cast the magic circle again. Place the two gems on either side of the time gem. The magic circle slowly turned, and Ancient One closed his eyes. She began to observe Lin Feng's information and future. As time went by, the magic circle spun faster and faster, and the three gems on it became brighter and brighter. At a certain moment, it seemed to have reached its climax, and the magic circle exploded, bringing with it a gust of strong wind. The broken magic circle slowly dissipated. Three gems also floated down from the sky and landed in the hands of the Ancient One. Ancient One opened his eyes and looked at Lin Feng with a strange look. Lin Feng was a little anxious, and stepped forward and asked, how is it, magician? Did you see anything this time? The Ancient One smiled and nodded, then shook his head. As if sensing Lin Feng's anxiety and confusion, Ancient One gave him a reassuring look. The picture is a bit blurry, but it's not without results. Don't worry, Lin Feng. You will return to your universe, but the process may be a little bumpy. With just one sentence, Lin Feng finally put his mind at ease. Ancient One called out his name, proving that she had indeed seen the information related to Lin Feng. But before that, you may need to take a trip to the future with this person in front of you. Ancient One smiled and pointed at Bruce Banner in front of him. You'll get the answers you want there. Go to the future. Lin Feng frowned, pondered for a moment and asked, how should I go? The most important things that allow Bruce and the others to travel through time are the quantum uniforms and PIM particles made by Tony, which he doesn't have. Is it Bruce's? Obviously not. How does this allow him to move towards the future? Someone will tell you, young man. Ancient One continued, I can feel that I in another world have helped you. Sometimes, something appears when you need it. At this point, Ancient One suddenly looked up and said, it's almost here. After saying something confusing again, Ancient One suddenly stuffed 3 infinite gems into Lin Feng's hands, and turned to Bruce and said, your future has been changed. Bring him to your future, and he will help you. After saying that, Ancient One went into the hut without looking back. The 2 people left on the rooftop looked at each other. Can you understand what she's saying? Bruce scratched the big green head. Lin Feng looked at the 3 gems in his hand and shook his head. Even the Ancient One from the parallel world spoke some things that he couldn't understand. Well, it seems you don't really understand either, Bruce said, but it looks like you need to go with me. Bruce didn't quite understand what the Ancient One said. But he understood the last sentence. Their future has changed again. The black-haired boy in front of them named Lin Feng will provide them with help. The Ancient One gave the time stone to Lin Feng, and the meaning was very clear. If you want to get the time gem, take Raymond Lam to the future. Unexpected things happened, but Bruce didn't expect this trip to be smooth sailing. The question now is how to bring Raymond Lam into the future. Before setting off, Ant-Man said that the amount of PIM particles was only enough for all of them to make a round trip. Now things are getting tricky. Should I ask Tony if he has any spare uniforms and PIM particles? Bruce suggested. If there really was no spare one, he decided to give his quantum uniform to Lin Feng. Raymond Lam holds 3 infinite gems, which are more powerful than him. Lin Feng nodded in agreement, I'll go with you. After that, the 2 looked at each other and were about to set off. However, at this moment, Lin Feng suddenly heard a series of intermittent words in his mind. Host, host. An intermittent voice sounded. Lin Feng paused abruptly, a gleam in his eyes. Familiar voice. Dog system, is that you? In the future. The sound was intermittent, like a radio station being interfered with the crackling sound of electric current in between. System? I can't hear you clearly, what are you saying? Lin Feng frowned and asked anxiously. Future, booth. Space, mind, time, stone 3, increase. Flight, come, let me, help. The sound became smaller and smaller, and after dropping a message, it disappeared again. Lin Feng called out several times but received no response. But he realized that the system seemed to want to convey some information to him. What's wrong with you? Bruce saw Lin Feng stopped where he was and asked. Lin Feng waved his hand suddenly and Bruce shut his mouth. He noticed that Lin Feng seemed to be thinking, and he disturbed Lin Feng. Regardless of what Bruce thought, Lin Feng had already begun to recall the information transmitted by the system in his mind. Effective information transmission is limited, intermittent, and incomplete. But as Superman, he has an excellent memory. The system's intermittent words were constantly filled in by him. According to the literal meaning, the system should also travel to the future on its own. And it seems that Bruce's name was mentioned. Going to the future, and having something to do with Bruce? It seems that Mind Gem and Space Gem are also mentioned, and there seems to be Time Gem? And Flight, what does it mean? Increase, increase? Increase? Flight? Does this mean using infinite gems to increase flight ability? In the message, there is also me, to help these 2 words possible permutations keep appearing. With constant filling and sorting, a general meaning was guessed by Lin Feng. The key to the future is Bruce. Lin Feng wants to use 3 infinite gems to increase his flight ability. The system should help him. Chapter 60. After a long silence, Lin Feng calculated several more permutations. But after screening, none of the results are as likely as the first one. There is no other way. The answer lies in the future battlefield of Avengers Alliance 4. Raymond Lam must give it a try. Bruce. Let's go. Lin Feng turned around and said, and then he put 3 infinite gems on Superman's wristband. He decided to follow what Bruce said and find Tony first to ask if he had a spare quantum uniform, or a time travel suit. If so, that would be great, and Lin Feng will be able to move into the future with very little risk. If not, you can only follow the method provided by the system. However, Raymond Lam did not have high hopes for the spare uniforms, as he remembered what Ant-Man Scott said. The stock of PIM particles is only enough for all of them to go back and forth once. The two walked down the stairs and headed directly to the meeting place Bruce and the others had agreed upon. However, when the two found Tony, it was too late. Tony and Steve had already put on their quantum uniforms, pressed the navigator and disappeared from the spot, leaving only a confused Ant-Man standing there with the scepter with the mind gem in his hand. Lin Feng, who rushed over, saw this scene with his own eyes and knew that there was no hope. These two people should have traveled back to 1970 to look for the space gem and PIM particles of that era. Hey! Bruce Banner ran over and he also saw Tony and Steve disappear. Scott, where did they go? Bruce inquired. Scott opened his mouth and looked at Bruce who had rushed over, his face full of anger and speechlessness. Tony failed and the space gem was lost and then they went to 1970 and they went crazy. Scott turned around twice on the spot as if to vent his anger, and in a few words he told all his bitter experiences. They are really crazy. If they make one mistake, there will be no coming back. Calm down, Scott, Bruce said, holding out his large hand. Scott stopped venting and suddenly stared at Bruce. Have you got the time gem? Hearing this, Bruce scratched his head in embarrassment. I think I got it. As he spoke, Bruce slightly turned his body to reveal Lin Feng who was following behind him. What do you mean should have gotten it? Scott looked at Bruce in confusion, and then noticed a stranger in a black battle suit behind him. Who is this again? Scott was even more confused. Why did Bruce bring a stranger here? I'm Lin Feng. Lin Feng took a step forward. Hello. I'm Scott. Ant-Man greeted dumbly. Lin Feng nodded, then looked at Bruce. He had already greeted him, and now he didn't have time to communicate with Ant-Man. It seems that there are no spare uniforms. Bruce also sighed, yeah, I can only try the method you mentioned. On the way here, Lin Feng had already told Bruce about the general backup plan. Although Bruce thought this was nonsense, the two of them had to give it a try even if there was a slight possibility. After all, what could be more ridiculous than traveling back in time, right? The two reached an agreement and stopped wasting time. Lin Feng walked behind Bruce and grabbed him under the armpits from behind. His body was so huge that Lin Feng couldn't hug him at all, so he had to use this method. Wait, man, what are you doing again? Can you explain it to me? Looking at the strange shapes of the two, Scott was confused. He couldn't understand the behavior of these superheroes. It was as if they knew everything, but he was the only one who didn't know. I'll explain it to you when we get back, Scott. Take the mind gem back first. As soon as Bruce finished speaking, he was pulled into the sky by Lin Feng. Scott was left there again, with his mouth wide open and the scepter in his hand. It was not until the two figures disappeared in the sky that Scott, who had been stunned for a while, reacted. He looked back to where Tony and Steve had disappeared. Looked at the sky again. A mouth opened and closed, and opened again. Crazy, you are all crazy. Scott silently lowered his head, pressed the space-time navigator, and disappeared from the spot. In the sky, Lin Feng expanded his biological force field 3 or 4 times to completely cover Bruce's huge body. He took Bruce straight into space. On the blue planet, the air resistance is too great to allow Lin Feng to reach his theoretical maximum speed. He needs to borrow 3 infinite gems from the universe to increase his flight ability. Lin Feng's flight was very fast, and in a short while, the two of them broke out of the atmosphere. Man, can you fly so fast? Bruce exclaimed. He was surprised by the strength and speed that Lin Feng demonstrated for the first time. He could actually pull himself out of the atmosphere. This flight speed is probably faster than a rocket. There are faster ones, are you ready? Lin Feng's expression was solemn as he observed the best flight direction. Ready, what? Bruce was confused. Wait for my signal and press the navigator. Lin Feng ordered. After saying that, without waiting for Bruce to react, Lin Feng pulled him and rushed forward. The biological force field enveloped the two of them, increasing their speed to the extreme within just a few seconds. When Lin Feng felt that his speed had reached its peak, he activated the infinite gems. 3 gems of different colors lit up one after another, twisting into an indescribable energy that poured into Lin Feng's body. The speed of flight increased dramatically. Moreover, with the output of the gems, Lin Feng's speed continued to increase, and even his entire body began to glow slowly. The completely transparent biological force field also began to sparkle at this moment. Lin Feng was like a beam of light, dragging Bruce straight forward. Flight speed is constantly approaching sublight speed. Bruce felt dizzy and he couldn't help but feel like vomiting. Although he was wrapped in Lin Feng's biological force field, he had never experienced such a fast speed. Even someone as physically strong as the Hulk cannot handle this speed. As the speed reached sublight speed, Lin Feng also began to feel some discomfort. The huge amount of energy that continued to flow through his body caused him to ache all over. He didn't know how fast he needed to fly to reach the system. Now he could only grit his teeth and hold on, increasing his energy output as if his life depended on it. Flight produces a torrent of light beams. In the direction of advance, small meteorites occasionally passed by, but they were also broken into pieces by the passage of light beams. Lin Feng's speed is still rising, having surpassed sublight speed and constantly approaching the speed of light. The energy of the infinite gems caused the surface of his body to begin to collapse to varying degrees. Small pieces of skin fall off the body, breaking down into tiny particles before finally fading into nothingness. Lin Feng's body now has the strength of a steel body. With the combined effects of the infinite gems and his super speed, he won't be able to hold out for long. The Hulk Bruce underneath him was not much better. He tried his best to keep his mind from fainting. Bruce placed one hand on the time-space shuttle, waiting for Lin Feng's so-called signal. Soon, the energy output reached the maximum limit that Lin Feng could bear. At this moment, Lin Feng felt that time suddenly slowed down. He suddenly had a feeling that he was about to exceed the speed of light. Now, host. The system's voice came again in Lin Feng's mind, so clear. He perked up, the time had come. Bruce! Lin Feng shouted. Bruce, who was almost falling asleep, heard Lin Feng's voice and subconsciously pressed the time and space shuttle. The next moment, the two people in flight suddenly shrank rapidly, the light of flight was instantly cut off, and the two people disappeared in the universe one after another. Chapter 61. Bruce's navigator took the two of them quickly into the quantum realm, constantly shuttling through the channels within it. The whole scene before my eyes looked like a cold-toned sewer pipe. It was the first time that Lin Feng saw such a scene. The navigator accurately brought the two to 2023, and then spit them out like throwing away garbage. Buzz! There was a vibrating sound. The scene in front of them changed again, and Lin Feng and Bruce appeared together at the Avengers base, on a mechanical platform built by Tony. Appearing at the same time as him were other Avengers who were carrying out missions. Although the time of travel was different, the time of return for everyone was the same, which was set before departure. Seeing this scene, Lin Feng couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It seems that he did not guess the system's meaning wrong. At this moment, he has arrived in the year 2023 in a parallel universe. Wrinkles appeared on Tony's face. Who are you? Tony noticed Lin Feng standing next to Bruce and asked with a serious expression. His shout quickly drew everyone's attention to the stranger who had appeared out of nowhere. The stranger was wearing a black battle suit, with varying degrees of damage all over his body. The battle suit was wrapped in solid muscles, and the exposed skin looked as if it had been burned, oozing with blood but slowly healing. This scene looked like he had just experienced a great battle, and his identity as a stranger undoubtedly made everyone suddenly alert. Tony directly raised his right hand in front of his chest. If Lin Feng made any unusual movement, he would awaken the nano battle suit and fire a shot at Lin Feng. Steve also stared at Lin Feng and clenched the shield in his hand. For a moment, the situation was tense. Hey, everyone, calm down. A drop of cold sweat slid down Bruce's head. He hurriedly stretched out his hands and pushed the air, signaling everyone to calm down. I brought him back. He's not an enemy. Bruce explained. After saying that, he reached out and pushed Lin Feng again, signaling him to say a few words quickly. Yes, I am not your enemy. My name is Lin Feng. Lin Feng was not surprised to see this. He just stood up and said hello, and tried to put on a kind expression to show that he was harmless. Tony and others in this universe do not know themselves. Besides, his current appearance is indeed likely to cause misunderstanding among people. Seeing that Lin Feng didn't seem to have any hostility, the tense atmosphere eased a little. Tony looked at Lin Feng speechlessly, then turned his gaze to Bruce Banner. We agreed not to bring back any local specialties. These words made Lin Feng's mouth twitch. Even in a parallel world, Tony's mouth still stinks as always. Bruce could only smile awkwardly and explained, the bald magician asked me to bring him here. The time gem is in his hands. After saying that, Bruce pointed at Lin Feng. Hearing this, several people raised their eyebrows and cast doubtful and inquiring looks at Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded, confirming Bruce's words, the Ancient One magician did lend me the infinite gems, and it was she who asked Bruce to bring me to the present time. Okay. Tony stroked his chin, Lin Feng, right? Tell me, what is your purpose of coming here? Even after the misunderstanding was resolved, Tony still didn't intend to let Raymond Lam go. He knew Ancient One, strange guide or master in magic. Those magicians are always mysterious. I don't know why she let Raymond Lam travel to the future. Just as Lin Feng was about to explain, there was a sudden bang, interrupting the friendly communication between the few people. Several people looked in the direction of the sound and found Hawkeye kneeling on the ground. This made several people confused for a while. But when they saw Hawkeye's expression clearly, their faces gradually became solemn. At this moment, Hawkeye's eyes flickered, and his face was full of sadness and pain. Steve looked at Hawkeye and frowned. Tony opened his mouth, and he seemed to realize something. His eyes searched around Clint, and his face gradually darkened. The people who came back were missing one. Hawkeye doesn't have Natasha Romanoff by his side. Clint, where is Natasha Romanoff? Bruce asked quietly, a lingering sense of foreboding rising in his heart. Hawkeye fell to his knees, shaking his head in agony. He was so sad that he couldn't say anything. Silence. Everyone fell silent, and an indescribable sorrow spread in their hearts. Hawkeye's behavior tells everyone a fact. A fact that everyone is unwilling to believe but has to face. Natasha Romanoff, something's wrong. The eyes of several people also flickered. Although well prepared, this journey through time and space is unlikely to be smooth sailing. However, when this moment really came, it was unacceptable. Sadness echoed in the hearts of several people. In the pavilion outside the base, Hawkeye narrates the process of Natasha Romanoff's sacrifice. The afternoon sun was scattered, but it seemed unusually cool. Bruce stood by the lake with his back to the crowd, and his expression could not be seen clearly. Steve sat there, listening quietly to Hawkeye's story. After a while, tears fell uncontrollably, dripping onto my face, the corners of my mouth, and finally falling to the ground. He couldn't remember the last time he cried, maybe it was when he missed a dance forever. Before she set off, she smiled and said to everyone, see you in a minute. Natasha Romanoff has been with everyone for several years, and the relationship between them is like that of a family. However, this family sacrificed themselves for the infinite gems, to save half of the population that Thanos had taken away. For a while, everyone was unable to get out of this grief. Tony walked up and patted Steve on the shoulder. Although his relationship with Natasha Romanoff was not as deep as Steve's, they were all Avengers, and many reasons brought them together as a team. Over the past few years, Tony has already regarded everyone as his friends. His throat rolled up and down, and he spoke in a hoarse voice, does she have any family? Steve nodded, but what he said made the sadness in the hearts of several people even greater. It's probably just us. As the words fell, the solemnity in the air increased. As if he couldn't stand this atmosphere, Thor, looking sloppy, stepped forward and questioned Tony. What do you mean? You said that. It's as if she's dead. Why treat her as dead? Thor looked at everyone who was in sorrow with mixed feelings. We have the infinite gems. The infinite gems can bring her back, right? So can you please stop talking nonsense? We are the Avengers, we need to cheer up. Listen to me, snap your fingers. Bring back Natasha Romanoff and the other half of life in the universe. Tony frowned, looked at him, and was speechless. Hawkeye shook his head, she can't come back. His voice was equally hoarse. It cannot be reversed, it cannot be done. His feelings for Natasha Romanoff were stronger than anyone else's. Natasha Romanoff had already become like a family member to him. He will never forget that Natasha Romanoff died in front of him. No one could understand how much he wished that it was himself who jumped down. Thor forced a laugh and couldn't help but retort, I might have been a little too direct. You are just an earthling, we are talking about cosmic magic now. Cosmic magic, do you understand? To say that it can't be done is too absolute. Hawkeye looked at Thor with a complicated expression, and the emotions he had tried hard to suppress rose up again uncontrollably. Yes. I know I may not have a say in the abilities of gems. But she can't come back. This is irreversible. At least that's what the floating red guy said. Hawkeye became more and more excited as he spoke, his voice rising sharply. Maybe you can talk to him. Take your hammer. Fly over and talk to him. Thor was stunned by his roar. He was not angry, he just frowned and fell silent, looking a little dejected. Just when everyone was constantly dominated by sadness. Lin Feng, whom they had been ignoring, suddenly spoke. Maybe, it's not completely impossible. Chapter 62. Maybe, it's not completely impossible. Lin Feng, who had been ignored by several people, stood up thoughtfully. As soon as the words fell, several people turned around and looked at Lin Feng with complicated eyes. Bruce, who had his back to the crowd, turned around and looked at Lin Feng with a creepy look. Lin Feng, tell me in detail. Tony said this. Big Bruce explained Raymond Lam's origin, a superhero from a parallel universe. At first, they didn't believe it until Raymond Lam took out his cell phone and pulled out the few photos he had with Tony as evidence. Testing on Friday confirmed the authenticity of the photo. Combined with the mind gem and space gem from another universe in his hand, plus the time gem of the bald magician as endorsement. Everyone then half believed and half doubted, and temporarily accepted Lin Feng. Lin Feng slowly glanced at the solemn-looking Avengers and explained, you know too little about how to use infinite gems. I have a plan that has a high chance of success. But all this needs to be tested to be confirmed. Then he turned to look at Hawkeye and said, the guy you met on the Vamir star is called Red Skull. He doesn't know much more about the infinite gems than you do. There are so many ways to use infinite gems that I can't list them all here. All I can say is, instead of trusting someone who is bound by infinite gems, why not trust me for a bit? Lin Feng's explanation made a lot of sense, causing several people present to nod subconsciously. Indeed, everyone's knowledge of infinite gems is limited to the surface, and the concept that it can take away creatures in the universe in an instant. As for Tony, who studied the mind gem, he was not much better than the others, otherwise he would not have lost control and created Ultron. Lin Feng's words once again brought hope to Hawkeye and several other people. Hawkeye choked up and nodded, saying solemnly, okay. I can do anything to save Natasha Romanoff. Raymond Lam also nodded silently. When he saw Black Widow's sacrifice in the cinema, he couldn't get over it for a long time. He remembered that Black Widow's sacrifice and Tony's finger snap were full of bugs, but that was how the movie was played and he couldn't change it. Now that there was an opportunity in front of him, he had to try it no matter what. Taking off the emerald green time gem from his wristband, Lin Feng continued, let's make the gloves that hold the gem first. It will take 6 infinite gems to bring back Natasha Romanoff. You guys need to cheer up. Whether it's for Natasha Romanoff, or for half the lives that Thanos took away. Everyone nodded in agreement again. Things took a turn for the better again, and the mood of the Avengers Alliance members eased a lot. Although they had only been in contact with Raymond Lam for less than a day, they were still willing to place some hope on this superhero who brought the time gem. After getting Lin Feng's time gem, everyone returned to the base. Thor was right, they were the Avengers, they needed to cheer up. If they also become decadent, then who can save this blue planet? The biggest goal at hand is to build the Infinity Gauntlet first and bring back half of the lives taken away by Thanos. Inside the base, Tony and Bruce were busy building a nano version of the Infinity Gauntlet, taking every step with extreme caution. Tony had a serious look on his face, and tested the integrate of the gem with his hands without any shaking. This was the first time he had done something like this. Last time he messed up an Ultron, so this time he was very focused. After all, if he is not careful, the blue star might be blown up. Lin Feng sat aside bored and rested. The wounds on his body caused by energy burns had completely healed. It's just that the system is not there, so I can't spend reputation points to repair the battle suit, so I can only make do with it for now. Hawkeye would glance at Lin Feng from time to time without saying anything. At first Lin Feng didn't care, but as the number of times increased, Lin Feng couldn't stand the little eyes full of hope and anxious waiting. The corners of his mouth twitched, and he turned sideways to watch Tony fiddling with the infinite gems, trying his best not to make eye contact with Hawkeye. At the moment Tony was controlling the mechanical arm, slowly installing the infinite gems onto a pair of golden red mechanical gloves. Tony seemed a little nervous, as if he was unsure whether the glove he built could bear the energy of 6 infinite gems. In fact, Raymond Lam's wristband can hold 6 infinite gems, and he can also fight with a snap of his fingers. But after all, in this universe, Lin Feng is an outsider and Tony and others do not completely trust Lin Feng. So Lin Feng didn't mention the wrist guard at all. Anyway, he already knew the ending, and there was nothing wrong with the gloves made by Tony. Just when Raymond Lam was enjoying Tony's performance. Ding, start a new task mission objective, resolve the Thanos army that comes through and kill at least one exile. Mission reward 1, 30 million reputation points. Mission reward 2, depends on the host's mission completion evaluation. A task reminder suddenly sounded in Lin Feng's ears, followed by the long-lost voice of the system. Hey, dog host, here I come, a cheeky and mean voice came. Hearing the familiar accent, Lin Feng's eyes flashed and his heartbeat speed increased. Dog system. Lin Feng's tone was a little excited, and he felt that the system's sarcastic voice was more intimate than ever before. Tell me quickly, do you miss me? The system put its hands on its hips. Although it had no entity, Lin Feng felt that the system was posing in a proud and arrogant manner. Haha, without you these days, my ears have been very quiet. Lin Feng chuckled, his tough talk was a reflection of his stubbornness. The system's voice became even more mean. Bah, you are just saying one thing and thinking another. A straight man who needs the system's help to chase a woman. Lin Feng had a face full of black lines and question marks. Why did you bring up this matter? Who hasn't had a first time yet? Seeing this, the system laughed and said, okay, I won't tease you anymore. This system has been exhausted these past few days. After saying that, Lin Feng seemed to hear the system sighing, and it was estimated that the system had not had a good time these days. He couldn't help but chuckle and teased, what's up? I haven't seen you for a few days. Are you so tired? Come on, tell me, what have you been doing these days? I'm very curious. Lin Feng had 180 questions in his mind that he wanted to ask the system, so he first asked what the dog system had done in the past 2 days. Hearing Lin Feng's question, the system's voice became a little annoyed. Hey, stop talking, I was tricked by 2 little bastards. Chapter 63. 2 little bastards? Raymond Lam expressed his confusion. Do you remember the exile from last time? Lin Feng nodded, the guy in black robe from the DC world? What happened? Was it him who did this? Not only that, he also sought help from the exiles from the Marvel Universe, the system continued. 2 shameless guys, they launched a sneak attack without any moral principles, their goal is to get the Superman template you just exchanged. And this system? At this point, the system voice became even more angry, the main system over there has taken action. These 2 bastards relied on the main system and wanted to tamper with my database and pull me into their camp. It's simply wishful thinking. A bunch of people with distorted values. I don't want to be associated with them. Hearing this, Lin Feng felt a little nervous. Okay, don't be angry, didn't they fail? Lin Feng comforted. Now that the system has returned safely, it proves that the exiles' plan to tamper with the system did not succeed. After comforting the system, Lin Feng immediately asked, what about my silver Superman template? They didn't steal it, did they? The system waved its hands, that's impossible. They didn't get any benefit from me. Host, don't worry. Seeing Lin Feng's worry, the system continued to explain, after the exile appeared, I placed the silver Superman template in a square device and sent him to a certain place in the universe. Well, our universe, you know. Once you return to our universe, you will be able to continue evolving. But before that, you need to complete the task that has just been issued. After the system explained it, Lin Feng felt relieved. As long as his item was not stolen, it was good. After all, that was the reputation that Lin Feng had accumulated bit by bit, after saving people from disasters countless times. Now the system is back and everything seems to be back on track. As for that task, Lin Feng pulled out the panel again and checked it. I saw the mission this time. The exile will also appear, right? The system's answer is affirmative. This time they plan to help Thanos and take away all life in the universe with a snap of their fingers. We can't let them get the Infinity Gauntlet. Without it, they can't do anything. Hearing this, Lin Feng smiled indifferently. It shouldn't be a big problem. With me here, they can't get the gloves. Then I'll snap my fingers with my gloves on and send them off in a neat row. So you can vent your anger. The system shook its head and said, Host, you think too much. The infinite gems finger snaps are useless to them. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows. What do you mean? They are not native to the Marvel Universe, so the infinite gems of the Marvel Universe do not work on them. You can use infinite gems to defeat them, but infinite gems can't erase them. Unless it's a physical kill. As if afraid that Lin Feng didn't understand, the system added, that is to say, you can use the Infinity Gauntlet to control a huge rock and smash them to death. You can also use the energy of the infinite gems to burn their heads. But you can't take their lives directly with the gloves. Lin Feng nodded, thoughtfully. That means I can beat them to death, but I can't send them away with a snap of my fingers, right? Yes, that's the truth. Lin Feng smiled without any fear. That doesn't matter, let's see whose fist is harder. Guys! Tony suddenly shouted, attracting everyone's attention. Seeing everyone looking at him, Tony nodded solemnly. Everyone's heart moved, and they all gathered around immediately. Lin Feng also stood up and walked over. Tony pointed to the table, I built it. Everyone looked over and saw Raccoon Rocket fiddling with a gold and red mechanical glove under the mechanical arm. On the gloves, 6 infinite gems lay quietly. Rocket was doing the final inspection procedure, and said without looking up, the gloves are ready. The question is who will do the fatal snap. Everyone paused, and Thanos snapped his fingers twice. Everyone present had seen that tragic scene. Even a titan as strong as Thanos could only barely snap his fingers before falling into a weakened state. The bodies of the titans were all seriously injured. Not to mention ordinary people. I'll do it. Thor, who looked like a fat ball, suddenly walked forward and reached out to take the gloves. Wow! Captain America and Tony stopped Thor at the same time. Thor's stomach and brain are now full of beer. In his current state, the success rate of snapping his fingers is too low. Look at what's running through his veins now, it's probably cheese sauce. The opportunity is too precious to let Thor take the risk. We haven't decided yet who will do the snap. Captain America explained. What? Are we just going to stand here and watch? Thor gasped, dissatisfied with the people who tried to stop him. You can't bring everyone back just by sitting here. I am the strongest Avenger, let me do it. Several people tried to dissuade him again, insisting that Thor should not snap his fingers. This made Thor so anxious that he almost cried. Poor Thor, taking the blame for not stopping Thanos on himself. He woke up from his dreams countless times. If his head had been chopped off that time, the outcome would have been completely different. God knows how much he is looking forward to such an opportunity. But now his teammates are trying to stop him, although Thor also knows that they are doing this for their own good. But Thor really needs this chance. Lin Feng stood aside and watched this scene. Seeing the people arguing, Lin Feng couldn't help but say, how about I do it? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone looked over at once, with a hint of vigilance in their eyes. No. Captain America spoke. Lin Feng, you don't belong to our universe, you shouldn't bear this responsibility. Besides, we don't know if snapping your fingers will have any other effects since you are from a parallel universe. Captain America's words are righteous and hard to refute. Lin Feng shrugged indifferently and stopped talking. He knew that no one would agree to his snapping of fingers. Captain America's words sound nice on the surface, but the main reason is to guard against Raymond Lam. After all, they knew very little about Lin Feng. If Lin Feng snapped his fingers and took away the other half of the life in the universe, wouldn't that be the end of them? After a dispute, Bruce with green head and green brain stood up. Hulk was born under gamma rays, and the infinite gems mainly release gamma rays. He felt as if he was born just for this moment of snapping his fingers. In full view of everyone, Bruce picked up the glove containing the 6 gems. Chapter 64. Friday, start the defense project. As soon as Tony gave the order, the entire base was immediately filled with the sound of machines operating. In a short while, the base was transformed into a steel fortress. The small hut where several people were located also became a completely enclosed space. Everyone's expressions were solemn and they all took defensive postures. After all, they didn't know what specific consequences this snap would cause. Seeing that everyone was ready, Bruce stopped hesitating and slowly put on his gloves. The moment the gloves fitted, the 6 infinite gems emitted a buzzing sound. The colorful energy bounced back and forth on the surface of the glove, then crawled along Bruce's veins towards his heart. Bruce's arms gradually broke down under the destruction of energy, and the surface skin lost its vitality like burnt charcoal. Huge amounts of pain came over Bruce, who endured it with difficulty. He knelt on the ground and screamed in pain. Everyone watched this scene in horror, and once again witnessed the horror of the 6 infinite gems gathered together. Bruce struggled to stand up, enduring the pain from the restless energy. This was an opportunity that everyone had given their all for, and Natasha Romanoff even sacrificed her life for one of the gems. He will never waste this opportunity. Veins on his forehead kept popping up, and his strong willpower always had the upper hand. Bruce struggled to put his fingers together and silently said in his heart, "Everyone come back." Bang! With a crisp sound, he snapped his fingers. In an instant, with Bruce as the center, a shock wave with indescribable power quickly spread out. It rushed out of the blue star and spread throughout the universe, bringing with it an inaudible echo. After snapping his fingers, Bruce instantly lost his strength, and his huge body fell backwards and was caught by Steve. The infinity gauntlet slipped from his arms and fell to the ground, emitting puffs of smoke. No one cared about the gloves, and everyone came forward to check Bruce's injuries. At the moment Bruce's left arm was as charred as charcoal, a horrible sight. "Don't touch him!" Tony shouted, leaning down, the battle suit in his hand continuously spraying coolant. Judging from the situation, Bruce's left arm will have to be bandaged for some time. Bruce didn't have time to check his injuries. He gasped and asked everyone weakly, "Did I succeed? Did I succeed?" Everyone looked at each other, not knowing how to answer for a moment. At this moment, someone's phone on the table suddenly vibrated. It was Hawkeye's. He felt something in his heart and walked over slowly under the gaze of everyone. The incoming call message on the screen instantly made Hawkeye tearful. "That's the first call in 5 years, Laura." Hawkeye picked up the phone with some trembling, and in the receiver came the voice he had missed for 5 years. "Dear." Hawkeye's voice was a little choked, as if his throat was choked and he couldn't speak. Looking at the chirping birds outside the window, a mysterious feeling rose in everyone's hearts. Bruce's finger snap should have taken effect. Steve patted Bruce's uninjured arm and breathed a sigh of relief. It looks like it was successful. Tony also sat on the ground and wiped the sweat from his forehead, as if he had just experienced a great battle. Their efforts paid off. He can see the talkative Spider-Boy again. At this moment, everyone's hearts became surprisingly calm, and a faint sense of joy arose spontaneously. However, everyone did not know that the real disaster of this journey through time and space had just begun. Lin Feng stood up, squinting his eyes and looking out the window, interrupting everyone's joy. "Everyone, trouble is coming." The few people who had not yet recovered were startled and looked in the direction Lin Feng was looking in confusion. Immediately afterwards, their pupils shrank and alarm bells rang in their hearts. Outside the window, huge amounts of spaceships were hovering above the base, and several missiles with red tails were coming one after another. Buzz! Huge amounts of explosions occurred in the air only 10 meters away from the base. Flames shot up into the sky, but the base surprisingly did not suffer any damage. The missiles appeared to be blocked by huge amounts of transparent protective shields. Lin Feng raised his left hand. The 2 raw stones, one yellow and one blue, on the wristband sparkled, and the biological force field blessed by the gems enveloped the Avengers base. The missile exploded like a firework, but posed no threat to anyone. Although no one was hit, everyone was not happy at the moment. Captain America held the shield, frowning, "What's going on?" Tony's expression under the mask was solemn, and he said in a deep voice, "If you play with time, time will play with you." Several people looked thoughtful, their eyes fixed on the window. The explosion flames in the air dissipated like a firework, revealing the huge spaceship behind. Lin Feng withdrew the energy and removed the biological force field. With his protection, the Avengers base did not turn into ruins like in the original film. "Let's go, everyone. There's work to do." Lin Feng left a word, walked out of the base first, and came under the spaceship. Everyone looked at each other without saying anything. They just tightly grasped their weapons and followed Lin Feng out of the base, staring at the spaceship with serious expressions. The spacecraft was suspended in the air and did not launch any more missiles. Instead, a beam of light suddenly appeared at the bottom of the spacecraft and shot towards the ground. A figure followed the beam of light and came to the ground. After the light beam dissipated, a large purple head appeared in everyone's sight, which was unexpected but reasonable. Thanos. The Titans took away half of all life in the universe with a snap of their fingers. However, unlike what everyone remembered, the Thanos in front of them was wearing a helmet, golden armor, and holding a huge amount of double-edged sword, which was more oppressive than what everyone saw 5 years ago. What is going on here? Seeing the old enemy whose head was chopped off in the past appear before them again, everyone felt a little dazed. It's Thanos from another timeline. Lin Feng said slowly. Tony is right, if you play with time, time will play with you. Hearing this, their faces became even uglier. Steve's face was solemn, and he raised the shield in his hand. We can't let him get the infinite gems again. Tony frowned, his visor closed quickly, his eyes never leaving Thanos. Thor roared, and a dark cloud quickly gathered above his head, flickering continuously. A bolt of lightning struck from the sky, and Thor opened his arms with white lightning in his eyes. Buzz! A hammer and an axe came through the air and fell into Thor's hands. The lightning disappeared, and he had already put on a suit of armor. It's just another chop off your head. I won't miss it this time. Several people stared at Thanos, slowly distanced themselves from each other, and formed a battle line in front of the base, waiting for Thanos' move. However, Thanos does not seem to have any intention of starting a war immediately. He stuck it into the ground like a big knife, glanced at everyone slowly, and his gaze stayed on Lin Feng for a second longer. It seems that you are unwilling to accept defeat. What do you think of seeing me again? Chapter 65. I thought that if I wiped out half of the existence in the universe, the other half would be able to live prosperously. But prove it to me. It's impossible. Thanos stroked his shiny big head and looked at the people in front of him who seemed as small as ants. However, this tiny ant is ungrateful and only knows how to reminisce the past. Don't give up even after you succeed. As my two friends said, as long as someone misses the past, they will not accept the future. They will resist. Two friends. Tony's words were full of sarcasm. Are there others who share the same idea as you? Thanos stared at Tony Stark coldly, and the space behind him began to flow like black water waves. Two figures hidden under black robes slowly appeared. The Exile. I don't know when he got involved with Thanos. As soon as the two black shadows appeared, the system immediately jumped out and screamed wildly. Host, it's them. These two little bastards. Go. Kill them. Oh. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes and slowly stepped back. Okay. Wait until I save up a big one. With his eyes fixed on the two black-robed exiles, Lin Feng quietly hid his left hand behind his back. The two gems glowed faintly, and huge amounts of energy began to flow into Lin Feng's body. He quietly moved behind Steve to prevent Thanos and the others from seeing his eyes, which were gradually beginning to glow. You will never understand how great my purpose is. Thanos drew out his double-edged sword and made his final declaration. I am very grateful to you for helping me find all the rough stones. I will use them to wipe out the entire universe. Then, create a brand new universe. No memories, no complaints, only gratitude to the universe. As soon as he finished speaking, Thanos picked up his sword and assumed a fighting stance. Steve raised his shield and sneered, a new universe with a lot of blood debt. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a loud bang. An orange-red light instantly struck the black-robed exile from behind Steve. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Sneak attack? He can do that too. A heat ray is fired, announcing the beginning of the war. The exile seemed to be prepared, and the moment Lin Feng jumped out, he waved his hands. A black disc-shaped shield blocked the two of them, and the heat ray impact made them constantly retreat. The two looked at each other, and one of the exiles stepped forward, took out a black and gold sword from his back, and jumped up to chop at Lin Feng. The heat ray was disconnected. Lin Feng dodged the chop by leaning sideways, and then delivered a powerful punch. Bang! The exile was knocked away by Lin Feng's punch and fell to the ground. He stood up and dusted himself off as if nothing had happened, seemingly unharmed. Seeing that the first attack missed, another exile rushed to Lin Feng as if teleporting, and punched out like Lin Feng. Bang! Another sound was heard, and this time it was Lin Feng who flew out. Damn it! Lin Feng got up and touched his forearm in surprise. This punch actually made him feel pain. The fierce wind from the fist blew open the exile's hood, revealing an ugly green face. It was covered with red veins. The man in black robe didn't care about his true appearance and simply tore off his black robe. Under the black robe, there was actually a tattered blue and red Superman battlesuit. Lin Feng's pupils shrank when he saw this. What kind of image is this? Doomsday. No wonder the system says that infinite gems are useless. The power of the Marvel Universe is used to fight against the power of the DC Universe? Obviously, it is impossible. This thing, I'm afraid you need kryptonite. As if to confirm his guess, the exile also fired a heat ray at Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't have time to think and fired a heat ray. The two heat rays intersected in the air and wrestled with each other. Beat it, I won't lose. Lin Feng roared, the Superman wristband lit up, and the infinite gems began to deliver energy again. The red heat ray instantly turned orange-red, forcing Doomsday to retreat step by step. Sneak attack. The exile holding the knife swung it forward again and stabbed towards Lin Feng's eyes. The blade was flashing with a black light, and Lin Feng smelled the danger and could not take it head-on. Nima. Lin Feng cursed in annoyance, dodged the knife light and flew into the air, then used heat ray as if it was free, attacking the two exiles like a blanket of fire. The two exiles jumped up and followed Lin Feng into the air, cooperating with each other to launch a series of attacks on Lin Feng. For a moment, lasers were flying all over the sky, sword lights were splashing, and the three men were fighting in a group. On the ground, the Avengers Alliance was also fighting fiercely with Thanos. Thor. Come at me. Tony seized Thanos's opportunity, turned backward, and the nano-energy device behind him unfolded. Thor understood, and with a loud shout, his eyes flashed with lightning, and the hammer and axe in his hands collided together. Lightning as thick as a bucket struck the energy-gathering device. Buzz. The laser weapon of the nano-battle suit shone brightly, and the high-energy laser rushed towards Thanos. Thanos roared, and the double-edged sword spun rapidly, blocking the oncoming laser in front of him. He continued to move forward against the lasers, grabbed Tony Stark, and the lasers suddenly stopped. Seeing that the situation was not good, Thor threw his hammer and swung his battle axe hard, and Mjolnir shot out like a cannonball. Thanos held Tony in his hand to his chest, using him as a human shield. Bang! Mjolnir directly knocked Tony flying and he hit some rubble. Tony struggled for a few times and then fainted. Thanos picked up the sword and swung it at Thor. Thor dodged by sliding sideways, then swung his axe and hit Thanos's head. However, due to a long period of indulgence, Big Belly Thor's endurance and burst ability are far less than before. Facing Thanos, who was at the peak of his combat power, he had almost no power to fight back. His Stormbreaker was knocked away in a moment, and he himself was knocked to the ground by Thanos in just a few hits. Thanos punched Thor twice, making him dazed. He reached out to summon Storm Rage, but Thanos snatched it away and chopped it down on Thor's chest. Thor woke up instantly, reached out to grab the attacking battle axe, bared his teeth, and pushed it out with all his strength. But now, in terms of strength, he is no match for Thanos. The sharp battle axe cut through Thor's armor like tofu. Just as Thor was about to be ripped apart by Thanos, a silver light suddenly flew out, knocked Thanos off balance, and saved Thor. After saving Thor, the silver object flew into Steve's hands with a whistling sound. Mjolnir. Thor stared blankly at Captain America holding the hammer, then laughed while panting. I knew it. Back in the Stark building, Steve made Mjolnir shake. He already suspected at that time that Steve could really lift Mjolnir, but he was afraid of ruining his reputation, so he pretended that he couldn't lift it. His face looked extremely ugly at that time, but today, when Steve raised Mjolnir, Thor was very happy. Thanos had a gloomy face and kicked the laughing Thor away. You know. Picking up the double-edged sword, Thanos rushed towards Steve. Chapter 66. Above the sky, Lin Feng was flying the two exiles like kites. Doomsday's heat ray occasionally interrupted Raymond Lamb's flight route. There was obviously something wrong with the light on the Black Robe exile's blade, and Lin Feng didn't dare to take it head-on. After dodging the knife again, Lin Feng used a heat ray to force Doomsday back. The frequent heat rays made his eyes red and swollen. Lin Feng seized the opportunity and punched the knife-wielding exile with a sonic boom. The exile held the sword across his chest and took the horrific blow head-on. The sword god wailed and trembled continuously, and the exile retreated explosively. For a while, the three of them were fighting back and forth. It was very lively. The combat power of the two exiles exceeded Lin Feng's expectations. With the tacit cooperation, they dragged Lin Feng into the air. They didn't seem to intend to fight to the death with Lin Feng, but seemed to be deliberately delaying time. "Host, speed up," came the system's voice. "They want Thanos to do that snap. Carol has been trapped in the universe by them and cannot participate in this war. Based on the current trend, the Avengers are not enough to defeat Thanos." After a pause, the system decided to help Lin Feng. "I will help you guard against their dirty tricks. Host, charge." Hearing this, Lin Feng flashed again and approached the two exiles. From the corner of his eye, he would observe the battle situation on the ground from time to time. On the ground, Steve performed a set of small combos and was almost beaten by Thanos to the point of being unable to take care of himself. Even though he was injected with super serum, his physique was still limited to the limits of human nature. The shield made of vibranium was chopped into several sections by Thanos' sword. With the last blow of the knife, Steve was knocked heavily to the ground. He was covered in dust and dirt, with blood flowing from the corner of his mouth, and he didn't get up for a long time. Thanos did not make a finishing move at this moment. He looked at the three people fighting evenly in the sky with some melancholy, then retracted his gaze. On the ground, the Avengers were either lying or crouching. In all my years of conquest, there has never been a trace of personal emotion mixed in. Your stubbornness is annoying. There was no fluctuation in Thanos' words, they were extremely cold. Now I'm going to show you how I will treat your ant-like planet. I will enjoy this process. As Thanos' words fell, huge amounts of blue light curtains fell from the sky. Then, one cone-shaped spaceship after another fell to the ground. The hatch of the conical spacecraft opened, and huge shadows walked out, accompanied by the roars of countless beasts. Huge amounts of leviathans reappear on the battlefield, giant-mouthed beasts with restraints, and alien soldiers with high-tech weapons. Under Thanos' command, countless captive monsters poured out like a tide, densely packed and bringing with them a breath of despair. His loyal dogs, Ebony Maw, Proxima Midnight, Corvus Glaive, and others also walked out of the light curtain. Thanos' army gathered on Blue Star. At this moment, Blue Star suffered its second, unprecedented disaster. At this moment, the Avengers were alone and helpless facing enemies that were thousands times more numerous than them. At this moment, Steve was breathing heavily and ready to give his life. Just when Steve thought Blue Star had run out of steam, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice suddenly sounded in my ears. "Captain, Captain, can you hear me? Captain. I'm Sam. On your left side." Steve turned his head with difficulty. Thin and fragmented golden lines carved a circle in the air. "It's space magic from Camartage." Then, a portal appeared and Falcon flew out from behind it. The second, third, fourth, countless portals opened at the same time in the sky or on the ground. They connect all parts of the world and even the depths of the universe. Black Panther walked out from the portal, leading countless warriors who were not afraid of life and death, and his slogan of victory broke through the sky. The Valkyrie rides on White Pegasus, followed by the heroic Asgard army. Ant-Man, who stayed at the Avengers base, transformed into a giant several dozen meters tall. He took a step forward and the earth shook. Bruce, who had calmed down a little, was now roaring angrily, as if the violent Hulk had returned. Doctor Strange, Star-Lord, Little Spider-Man, Bucky, Groot, Wanda, and even the magician from Camartage have joined the battlefield. A light gradually appeared in Steve's eyes. It is the light of hope. The guarding forces belonging to Blue Star appeared at this moment. At the most critical moment of Blue Star, they stood up and gathered unprecedented strong fighting power. The snap of fingers 5 years ago took them away, and 5 years later, they have a precious opportunity to fight back. They gather at this moment and go to war carrying the last hope of mankind. Tony and Thor, who had regained consciousness, gathered around Steve. Steve suppressed his excitement. He took a deep breath, stretched out his right hand, and shouted loudly, "Avenger!" Mjolnir returned to his right hand with a whistle. He looked directly at Thanos, and his voice became deep and powerful, "Assemble!" Roar! Countless Blue Star Coalition forces launched a charge. They rushed to the battlefield, aiming their swords at Thanos' army. Under their feet, the ground was shaking, the air was turbid, and morale was overwhelming. What they are carrying at this moment is not only the fate of the blue planet, but also the fate of mankind. And it's all the living beings in the universe that disappeared in that snap of fingers. Morale is higher than ever before, the final battle begins at this moment. Thanos' army also rushed into the battlefield at a command, but how could they resist the angry Avengers? When one soldier falls, another one steps up to take his place. The Avengers have put life and death aside. The only thought in their minds is to kill these hateful alien monsters. The shouts reached the sky, monsters screamed, and humans roared in anger. Guns and cannons roared. Metal and iron intertwined. Roars and wails echoed throughout the battlefield. The flames of war spread across the land, and the sky and the earth changed color. The air is filled with smoke of gunpowder, fighting, resistance, defense and destruction. Thanos' expression turned slightly ugly. In his military career, Blue Planet was the biggest obstacle to his goals. His big purple head couldn't understand why the Earth had such a powerful counterattack force. But there's no need to wait for him to figure it out. Scarlet Witch Wanda, with red eyes, fell from the sky. The look she gave Thanos was filled with hatred, both new and old, and the origin magic power surrounding her glowed brightly red. You took everything from me. Thanos frowned, confused but certain, I don't even know you. Wanda became even more sad and angry, and shouted, you will know it. As soon as he finished speaking, origin magic power exploded instantly. The scarlet energy rolled up the rubble and ruined walls of the battlefield and attacked Thanos. Thanos swung the sword in his hand to block the attack, and then slashed at Wanda. Wanda did not dodge. The bloody energy wrapped around the sword. Wanda tore it with both hands. The sword, which was stronger than vibranium, was torn into countless pieces and fell to the ground. Under Thanos' suspicious eyes, Wanda raised her sword, and the scarlet energy wrapped around him and lifted him into the air. Wanda attacked with hatred, and origin magic power restlessly removed piece after piece of golden armor. Without the protection of the armor, Thanos' body was exposed to magic. He felt a powerful force pulling at his body, and at this moment his soul was about to die. Enduring the great pain coming from his body, Thanos couldn't help but roar in pain. Ebony Maw! Fire volley! Ebony Maw was stunned for a moment, then immediately carried out Thanos' order. Thanos' vehicle, Holy Place No. 2, is suspended high in the sky, and all weapon windows are on standby. The next moment, artillery shells that covered the sky and the sun were fired, attacking the ground mercilessly. The shells did not distinguish between friend and foe, forming a dense barrage that bombarded the Avengers and invaders. Baptism of fire. The roar of the explosion was mixed with wailing and despair, and the number of troops on both sides was constantly decreasing. Then, the second and third rounds of shells began to wash the ground like a rain curtain without stopping. Chapter 67. The earth-shattering explosion resounded through the sky and immediately caught Lin Feng's attention. He looked in the direction of the sound and saw Thanos' Holy Place No. 2, which was constantly firing shells and bombarding the ground with artillery fire. The cruel Thanos doesn't care about the life and death of Leviathan and others. In his eyes, they are all cannon fodder. He can sacrifice everything to achieve his goal. Gamera is the best proof. Otherwise Thanos wouldn't have shed a tear for her. Artillery fire washed the ground, and the Avengers dodged everywhere, with casualties continuing to occur. Lin Feng's heart moved, and he turned around and flew towards Holy Place No. 2. His goal was clear, to destroy this big guy first. However, the two exiles did not intend to let Lin Feng go. With a flash, the exiles stood on his left and right, blocking him in a sinister manner. Where do you want to go? This was the first time the exile spoke since the battle, and his voice sounded like sandpaper being rubbed against something, which was irritating to Lin Feng's ears. Get out of here! Lin Feng didn't have time to waste words with him. His eyes turned red and he fired a heat ray, but the exile dodged it with a teleportation. The black and gold sword attacked again. Lin Feng bent down to dodge and then attacked again with a punch. However, the exile's speed was not much slower than Lin Feng's. The exile holding the knife swung down without caring whether he hit the target or not, and immediately retreated. Then, Doomsday jumped behind Lin Feng and kicked him. As soon as Lin Feng turned around, Doomsday retreated, and the exile with a knife behind him stepped forward again. The two exiles were like slippery loaches. When Lin Feng fought one of them, the other one would constantly harass him. The two of them didn't fight hard, they just flew the kite and dragged Lin Feng to nowhere. Gradually, anger began to burn in Lin Feng's heart. Carol was trapped in outer space by the exile, and he couldn't fly back to provide support like in the original book. He didn't have much time to play kite with the exile. If this continues, Thanos will have to snap his fingers to complete the attack. With the thought in mind, Lin Feng decisively opened the special red kryptonite. For Lin Feng now, this amount of reputation is nothing. He can just buy a few more later. A red light flashed by, and Lin Feng's physical fitness directly improved to a higher level. Now, the upper limit of energy he can withstand has increased exponentially. Lin Feng's figure flashed repeatedly, and his speed was more than twice faster than before. The pupils of Doomsday, who was retreating continuously, shrank, and Lin Feng's speed suddenly increased faster than his reaction. A fist kept getting bigger in his pupils. Boom! With one punch, Doomsday's chest was dented. Doomsday's eyes were filled with disbelief. He spat out a mouthful of black blood and flew out of sight under the punch. He didn't even have the time to play his trump card. He had no idea how Lin Feng, who was as strong as him, could become so powerful in an instant. The exile holding a knife paused in midair, then retreated at high speed. It seemed that he was frightened by Lin Feng's punch. Lin Feng doesn't have time to take care of him now. If Thanos continues to bombard them like this, the Avengers will be disbanded. He quickly flew to the ground, and when he looked up he saw the heat ray blessed by infinite gems. There was not enough time, and Lin Feng did not accumulate much energy. However, even so, the power should not be underestimated. The orange-red laser instantly pierced through Holy Place number 2. Lin Feng moved his eyes slightly and plowed Holy Place number 2 in half like cutting paper. Holy Place number 2, which had fought with Thanos for most of its life, was broken into 2 pieces, and the broken part was still constantly exploding. The rain of artillery fire stopped instantly. The 2 halves of the spacecraft fell from the sky with billowing black smoke and a buzzing sound. Boom! A loud noise was heard, and everyone looked up. The shells that covered the sky were gone. Everyone only saw Holy Place number 2 with black smoke billowing out, broken into 2 pieces and smashed into the lake, splashing huge waves. Good fellow! Steve watched the whole thing, breathing heavily. He looked at Lin Feng with eyes full of disbelief. What the hell is that? Can the eyes emit lasers? Tony also exclaimed in amazement. The data in the mask showed that the value of the laser just now exceeded the measurement limit of Friday. Most of the Avengers saw Lin Feng's laser. They didn't know that there was such a powerful existence among the friendly forces. Rocket the raccoon stood next to Groot, his eyes wide. Oh my god, I wanted to steal his wristband. Luckily I didn't do it. People. After dealing with Holy Place number 2, Lin Feng quickly turned around and prepared to deal with the 2 exiles. Looking around, all he saw was Doomsday, lying on the ground 1,000 meters away, barely breathing. But the exile holding the black gold sword was nowhere to be seen. Host! The exile has escaped. What? Lin Feng dug his ears. Run away? Is that true? Is the exile so cowardly? Lin Feng was surprised and confused. This plot was totally wrong. Shouldn't the villain be extremely powerful, refusing to surrender even until death, and even cursing the protagonist in retaliation before dying? And generally speaking, shouldn't villains have a few big trump cards? How come one of them just ran away? They just came to harass me and ran away? The villain's face was completely disgraced by these 2 bastards. Soon, the system gave the answer. They tried to tamper with my database before, which triggered my automatic defense mechanism. My defense mechanism is not a vegetarian one. They had already used their trump cards to escape. Even so, these 2 bastards were seriously injured. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as simple as the strength of these 2 bastards being greatly reduced today. Lin Feng nodded, and understood something. Then why don't you just kill them? Why give them a chance to jump out and jump around? The system suddenly hesitated. Isn't this for you to practice? Then I really thank you. Lin Feng chuckled. The system seemed to be hesitant to speak, and it was obvious that it was hiding some information. However, Lin Feng was not in a hurry to expose it now. He would wait and see after the war. Lin Feng leaped and flew towards the direction of Doomsday. It turns out that it's not that these 2 exiles are weak, but that they have been severely beaten by the system. After fighting for a while, the 2 bastards couldn't even break through Lin Feng's defense. If Raymond Lam at the moment was the Silver Superman template, it is estimated that the 2 exiles would not be able to withstand a single punch from him. If all exiles were like this, even in his heyday, Lin Feng could kill a kid with 1 punch. As if sensing Lin Feng's state of mind, the system jumped out and mercilessly revealed some information. Host, don't be careless. The exile's strength is divided into several levels, and these two are just minions at the lowest level. A true first-order exile, whose strength is beyond your imagination. The reason why we were able to defeat the exiles so easily this time has a lot to do with their declining strength and having used up all their trump cards. Why else do you think I just harassed you today and never used a single killing move? Hearing this, Lin Feng was shocked, and Flight's body also paused. Multi-universe level? These few simple words represent huge amounts of power. As far as he knew, Silver Superman belonged to the level single universe category. With the Silver Superman template, he can compete with any powerful being in the single universe. However, this strength is as fragile as an ant when compared to the multi-universe level. If the first sequence comes, won't I be killed? Lin Feng frowned, and his heart sank. The exile was far more troublesome and complicated than he had imagined. The exile he was fighting with turned out to be just a small fry in the group, which made Lin Feng feel depressed. That won't happen. Before the host grows up, the first sequence won't notice you. Why use a butcher knife to kill a chicken? Do you understand this principle? You have to at least reach the middle and late stages of Silver Superman before you can be included in the first sequence list. The system made a metaphor, which was rough but true. Lin Feng's face was filled with black lines. I am a chicken. It's just an analogy. The host still has a long way to go. But host, don't worry. There will be opportunities suitable for you in this mission reward. Seize the opportunity and grow up as soon as possible. The system's words made Lin Feng vaguely feel that he was involved in huge amounts of trouble. It was as if a giant monster had unveiled a corner of its veil. It seems that after this battle, I really need to have a good talk with the system. About why he came from outside the fourth wall, and what information the system is hiding. Outside the blue planet, the knife-wielding exile seemed to be floating silently in space, watching the battlefield of the final battle. After a long time, he covered his chest with his hands and coughed twice. The injuries left by that damn system have not yet fully healed. He opened the communication, edited a message and sent it out. Chapter 68. Lin Feng flew to the place where Doomsday crashed. Doomsday was exhaling more and taking in less air. He was breathing heavily, and his eyes were full of malice when he looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng shook his head and laughed, then he took out a pendant-like object from his body and threw it into the sky. The Infinite Gems version of Heat Ray was fired. He didn't intend for him to leave any last words or anything, the system had already told Lin Feng the exile's background. As for the pendant-like item, it was also found under the guidance of the system. It is a space prop used by the exile to store items. Lin Feng put it away and prepared to see if there were any good things after the battle. After a few seconds of being under the heat ray, Doomsday's body began to fall apart, leaving no trace. Too weak. Even the dogs shook their heads when they saw it. Lin Feng felt that the only thing about him that looked like Doomsday was his physical fitness, the ability to be immune to the damage caused by the last death after resurrection, and so on, but none of those were reflected in him. He shouldn't be called Doomsday, he should be called Fake Superman. Very weak and dramatic. Raymond Lam doesn't even need to use kryptonite to kill him. But this also explains why he wanted to snatch his own Silver Superman template. I guess one of them is to make him truly become Doomsday. On the battlefield, despite the overwhelming artillery fire, the Avengers base could not be saved. In the flames that shot up into the sky, it turned into ruins. Nebula from 2014 walked out of the ruins holding a pair of gloves and in front of Thanos. Father, I brought you infinite gems. Nebula respectfully held up the Infinity Gauntlet, which she had tricked from Hawkeye during the chaos. Thanos took the gloves with some surprise and nodded with satisfaction. Well done. Just one sentence made Xing Yun's entire body tremble with excitement. As far as she could remember, this was almost the first time Thanos had praised her. At this moment, she felt that she had surpassed Gamera and successfully proved her worth to her father. Nebula was happy, but the Avengers felt a jolt in their hearts and their faces sank uncontrollably. Nebula rebelled? Before they could think about it, another Nebula walked out from the ruins, followed by Hawkeye and Gamera with gloomy faces. Two nebulae. Everyone's eyes turned and they began to understand what was going on. Shit. Tony cursed. Steve even whispered to himself, if you play with time, time will play with you. This nebula followed Thanos from the past time. But there is no time to take care of these things now. Seeing that Thanos has obtained the Infinity Gauntlet, the situation has become extremely dangerous. We can't let him snap his fingers. Steve roared, exerted force on his feet, and rushed towards Thanos first. It was not easy to bring the other half of life back. We cannot let Thanos repeat the tragedy of 5 years ago. Everyone understood this and attacked Thanos one after another. Tony's feet were on fire and he soared into the sky, attacking Thanos with laser weapons regardless of the loss. Thanos, who lost his armor, gritted his teeth and used his body to resist. The laser hit the hard skin of the Titan, leaving red marks. Hawkeye fired arrow after arrow at the Infinity Gauntlet in Thanos' hand, and the arrows exploded as soon as they touched. Combined with the impact of Tony's laser weapon, shockwave made Thanos constantly retreat. Steve arrived at this time, and while Thanos had no time to pay attention, he hit Thanos' right hand holding the glove with the hammer in his hand. Boom! Thanos screamed in pain and was thrown away. The gloves also slipped off his hands and fell to the ground. Seeing this, the Nebula of 2014 went forward to pick up the gloves, but was stopped by the Nebula of the future, and the two wrestled with each other. Good opportunity. Seeing this, Tony immediately flew to where the glove landed. Just as he was about to pick it up, Thanos rushed out, and his heavy fist directly knocked Tony more than 10 meters away. Thor roared, took a run up, and swung his thunder axe towards Thanos' head. Thanos suddenly squatted and dodged sideways, and used the Black Tiger heart-ripping move to hit Thor's heart directly. The fat Thor had no time to dodge and was hit hard by the punch, and his breath was immediately stuck in his chest. After Thanos finished his punch, he lifted up Thor, roared, and threw him at the guy who kept shooting arrows. Seeing that he couldn't dodge, Hawkeye had to take it head-on. The two of them immediately collided with each other and both fell to the ground, unable to get up for a while. While the men were fighting, Tony ran to the glove again. He grabbed the glove and flew into the sky without any hesitation. A big hand stretched out from behind and firmly grasped his ankle. Bang! Tony was slammed to the ground by the big hand. Tony struggled to increase the power of the thrusters, but it was too late. Thanos grabbed Tony and swung him left and right on the ground. If Tony hadn't been wearing a nano battle suit, he would have been half dead. Seeing that the Iron Man in his hand had no reaction, it seemed that he was knocked unconscious. Thanos simply used him as a throwing weapon at Steve. Everyone tried their best to attack, but the Titan's body was too powerful. Unlike the exhausted Thanos 5 years ago, the Thanos from 2014 is younger and stronger. No one can stand up to him. After getting rid of a few annoying ants, Thanos quickly picked up the glove while they were still unable to calm down, and put it on his right hand without any hesitation. Roar! The 6 infinite gems unleashed huge amounts of energy, which flowed through Thanos's meridians and blood vessels throughout his body, constantly destroying the Titan's body and causing him to roar in pain. This feeling is like being tied up by a lightning-fast rope all over the body, and it is constantly shrinking. However, this is nothing compared to the great cause he is about to accomplish. He can endure any amount of pain. After a burst of power, Thanos gradually adapted to the power of the infinite gems. When the pain eased a little, Thanos showed a slight smile on his face. He looked at the Avengers who were launching a final charge towards him and shook his head. It was too late. The thumb and middle finger of the right hand wearing the Infinity Gauntlet slowly moved together. No. Steve, who was still charging, had despair in his eyes and his mind went blank. I am Destiny. Thanos said this through gritted teeth and twisted his fingers hard. Buzz. Just before Thanos snapped his fingers, an orange-red light, carrying infinite energy, accurately hit Thanos' right hand. Even though he was dozens of meters away from the blazing light, he could still feel the burning aura. The eyes of the crowd changed from suspicion to horror. The orange-red laser shot out and directly covered Thanos' entire palm. When the laser disappeared, Thanos' entire right hand also disappeared. Roar! Thanos was stunned at first, and then huge amounts of pain came from his right arm. He couldn't help but scream out in pain. He looked at his right arm in disbelief. His right hand, including his forearm, completely disappeared under the laser. The skin near the forearm had turned into a charred state and was emitting black smoke. The mechanical glove loaded with infinite gems had also been completely evaporated, leaving only the infinite gems falling to the ground. Thanos covered his arm, gritted his teeth and looked in the direction where the laser came from. It's Raymond Lamb. Under the gaze of several people, he walked into the battlefield slowly, his eyes still glowing orange, and his eyes were terrifyingly bright. Red kryptonite enhanced his physique enough to receive more gem energy. If the heat ray just now was fired at the earth, it would have penetrated it in a very short time. However, the price was that Lin Feng's eyes hurt so much that he couldn't help crying. Seeing Lin Feng slowly walking towards him, Thanos' eyes flickered. He ignored his injured right arm and tried to grab the gem on the ground with his only remaining left hand. However, all this became futile as the glove disappeared. Without the glove, what use would it be even if he got the infinite gems? He couldn't snap his fingers anymore. Bang! Lin Feng's moving figure suddenly sped up, and he punched Thanos, knocking him away. Bending down to pick up the infinite gems that fell on the ground, Lin Feng's eyes finally stopped shining. Chapter 69. Your starting point is good. Lin Feng sighed. But your actions and goals are too radical. There are so many ways to mitigate the dire consequences of population growth. You chose the most radical one, which is doomed to fail. Thanos struggled to get up from the ground. He didn't recognize who was in front of him. Nebula's memory did not show his presence. I have to do this. For the development of the universe. I have seen too much hunger, pain, struggle, and war. Thanos said in a weak but firm voice. All of this is the result of not knowing how to control life. Only by destroying half of the life will the remaining half survive. Lin Feng sneered and shook his head. Indeed, Thanos conquered countless planets, killing half of the life and leaving the other half, which led to prosperity in a short period of time. However, all this is only temporary. With the passage of time, everything will return to the starting point. The reason why Thanos has this idea is closely related to his experience. This behavior and thinking pattern comes from what he saw and heard on his home planet. If there is a chance, I would really like to send you to the ancient East to study. Perhaps their control over population can broaden your horizons. But now, Thanos, you must pay for your actions. Lin Feng said this with melancholy in his eyes, looking around at the battlefield. This war was started by Thanos. As Raymond Lam spoke, he installed the infinite gems one by one on the Superman wristband. The 6 gems were integrated one by one, and Lin Feng's wristband suddenly became colorful and a bit flashy. Huge amounts of energy began to flow into Lin Feng's body. Unlike Thanos, with the enhancement of red kryptonite and the double restraint of Superman's wristband, Lin Feng's pain is not too intense and he can fully bear it. This is different from his use of infinite gems to amplify heat ray. Amplifying heat ray requires energy absorption into the body before it can be amplified. However, when Lin Feng wanted to snap his fingers, he didn't need to take the energy into his body. Thanos looked at Lin Feng quietly. The game is over. Thanos knew clearly that if the orange-red laser just now had been aimed at his head, he would have ceased to exist. He had never seen Lin Feng's strength before. Those 2 so-called black-robed friends were probably also killed by him. His goal was once again stranded. He was calmer than ever before, just watching Lin Feng put the infinite gems on a wristband. Who are you? Thanos' lips moved for a while, but in the end he wanted to know Lin Feng's identity. Lin Feng raised his left hand with the Superman wristband, and the 6 infinite gems echoed each other and emitted light. Me? Lin Feng looked at Thanos calmly. My name is Lin Feng. Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, he snapped his fingers. The invisible energy spread out again. Thanos' army fighting against the Avengers paused at this moment, and their expressions gradually became confused. A feeling suddenly arose in my heart, as if my body no longer belonged to me. The next moment, they turned into smoke and particles, drifted away with the wind, and then disappeared. An indescribable atmosphere came over everyone. The sudden change made the Avengers a little confused. They didn't know what happened. Thanos turned his gaze towards the battlefield and looked around helplessly. His subordinates, one after another, turned into dust and drifted in the air. Thanos felt a little lost, a little overwhelmed, and a little indescribably sad and calm at the moment. He seemed to have accepted his fate. After staggering 2 steps, his huge body sat down dejectedly on a stone. He tried to raise his head, and seemed to have difficulty breathing. Finally, he closed his eyes quietly. Thanos from Titan also slowly dissipated with this snap of fingers. He and all the legions under his command disappeared. Just like 5 years ago, with that snap of fingers, half of life was at a loss. Quiet. The battlefield where shouts of killing reached the sky in the previous second. The next moment there was deathly silence. All that was left was the sound of the ruins burning and breaking. After a long while, as if coming to their senses, the silent battlefield erupted into thunderous cheers. At the moment, the Avengers, who had just reacted, hugged each other with tears in their eyes. Regardless of race or region, they are expressing their joy. This time, they successfully saved the universe from Thanos. The indescribable joy, relaxation, and sense of accomplishment lingered in the air and lingered for a long time. Lin Feng looked at Thanos' disappearance with some melancholy and sighed. He didn't lie, Thanos' starting point was good, but his actions and goals were too radical, so radical that he would not succeed. Lin Feng turned around and looked at the Avengers hugging each other, and a sense of relief surged in his heart. He saw Tony and couldn't help but smile. Tony Stark. I snapped my fingers for you. Tony held Pepper Potts in his arms, turned to Steve and asked, why is he looking at me like that? Steve smiled with a gloomy face, who knows that? After saying that, Steve limped towards Lin Feng. Where are you going? Old man. Tony called from behind. Steve didn't even turn around, go thank him. Tony shrugged and looked down at Pepper in his arms. Pepper just smiled and gave him an ambiguous look. Okay. Tony rolled his eyes, hesitated for a moment, and walked towards Lin Feng. The final battle came to an end with Lin Feng's snap of fingers. Half of the life that disappeared returned again. Countless families cried inconsolably, but they were cries of joy. Blue Star is busy again, just like it was 5 years ago. There are several more statues of the Avengers next to the monument in the square. Even a statue of Raymond Lam was put up there. Although no one knows this superhero with black hair, black eyes, and wearing a black battlesuit. But everyone knows that the reason they can reunite again is because of these Avengers in front of them. Blue Star returned to normal, and the originally deserted streets became prosperous again after a day. Abandoned schools, shut down factories, and stranded ships are being cleaned up and reused by people again. And because the one who was fired was Raymond Lam, not Tony Stark. This turned what was supposed to be Tony Stark's funeral into a celebration of victory. But before the banquet began, they still had one thing to do. Still by the lake, workers were clearing the ruins of the Avengers base. The Avengers gathered in the damaged pavilion. Bruce Banner, Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, Clint Barton, Thor Odinson, Scott Lang. They stood quietly behind Lin Feng, their faces serious and solemn. Lin Feng turned around and his eyes moved between them. He took a deep breath, as if preparing for something, and nodded. Everyone nodded in response, their eyes filled with solemnity and expectation. Lin Feng turned around, took another deep breath and closed his eyes. The 6 infinite gems on the wristband slowly lit up at this moment. Under the eager gaze of Stark and his companions, Lin Feng raised his left hand, just like he snapped his fingers on the battlefield 2 days ago. Lin Feng calmed his mind, and with the help of the system, he slowly spoke in his mind. Soul Gem. I know you have self-awareness. Give Natasha Romanoff's soul back. That's right, Raymond Lam is communicating with Soul Gem. Infinite gems have their own consciousness, and Lin Feng can simply exchange some information with them through the system connection. The gem was silent for a long time, and then there was a slight fluctuation representing rejection. Lin Feng was not in a hurry and just spoke again. A soul means nothing to you. Give Natasha Romanoff's soul back. Don't force me to use force. The wave of rejection came faster, even mixed with a hint of disdain. I say again, return Natasha Romanoff's soul to me, or I will use the other stones to destroy you. Don't doubt what I say. I'll only give you 1 minute to think about it. After 1 minute, I'll snap my fingers. It's your destruction, or the return of Natasha Romanoff. The decision is in your hands. Seeing that nice words didn't work, Raymond Lam threatened with a cold face. He believed that Soul Gem would make the right choice. The wait was long. Tony pressed his thumbnail against his teeth and couldn't help but tilt his head and ask Steve in a low voice. Why is he silent? Although the voice was small, everyone heard it and their eyes were all directed at Tony. Steve frowned and shook his head at Tony, motioning him to continue reading. Tony was also feeling uncomfortable from the stabbing and raised his hands in surrender. Everyone turned their attention to Lin Feng again. After some negotiations, Soul Gem reluctantly gave a hint of surrender. Lin Feng got the message, breathed a sigh of relief, and a smile appeared on his lips. Soul Gem is not a fool. When faced with the life and death of a soul and its own life, it knows how to choose. Bang! Lin Feng snapped his fingers. Several people perked up and their eyes widened. In front of Lin Feng, ripples were visible to the naked eye. With the sound of the finger snap, a figure slowly walked out. It was Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow with pigtails and a bewildered look on her face. Chapter 70. For infinite gems, different usage methods bring completely different results. Just like a goddess, you approach her cautiously, and she can make you happy for a few days with just a few casual words. However, when you take off her goddess halo, you will find that there is not much difference between the goddess and other girls. In Lin Feng's eyes, infinite gems is a large-scale amplification tool, equivalent to a magic weapon in an online game. You should be its master, not its lapdog. The final battle ended, Thanos was annihilated, countless lives returned, and Natasha Romanoff was brought back by Raymond Lam with a snap of his fingers. Blue Star had a happy ending, and the Avengers gathered in a club to celebrate. In the club, the whole environment seems warm and harmonious. Tony is more stable now than when he was young, otherwise he should have a group of hot girls as the atmosphere group. People gathered in groups of 3 or 4 to chat and enjoy the rare time that belongs to them. Smiles were on everyone's face, and when they were excited, laughter could be heard from time to time. There was also a dinner party in the evening, and Raymond Lam was also invited. No one will forget him, the hero who resolved the war with just a few punches and kicks. Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye sat together and would glance at Raymond Lam from time to time. When looking into Lin Feng's eyes, he would smile and nod to express his gratitude. Lin Feng sat on the sofa. After sending the one-eyed boiled egg away with a few words, he drank his wine and watched the carnival in front of him with a smile. Ding! A beautiful voice rang in Lin Feng's ears. The system brings the settlement of this task. The rewards for this mission are calculated as follows. Main quest, reward, 30 million reputation. Kill an exile, reward, 10 million reputation. Evaluation of this mission, A, combined with the difficulty of the mission and the progress of the plot collapse, reward, 3 pieces of special red kryptonite. Strengthening version of the Tree of Life leaf 30 packs. Weak artificial intelligence program. Holy Place spacecraft number 2. A master key, used 3 times. In addition to reputation, some strange things were also given. When Lin Feng saw the Holy Place number 2 spacecraft, he was stunned for a moment. Isn't this Thanos's car? It disappeared with a snap of his fingers. Why give yourself this? This thing is not as fast as your own flight. After much thought, Lin Feng decided to find an opportunity to hand him over to Tony and let him study it. Maybe there is some technology that can be used. As for the master key, Lin Feng took it out and took a look at the description. Master key, used 3 times, a key that opens a world with coordinates. Simple description, concise and to the point. It looks like the kind of prop that can allow one to travel to the DC universe. Lin Feng put it back and didn't plan to care about it for the time being. As for the exile's 10 million reputation points, it was like picking up a bargain. The 2 exiles were ridiculously weak. The strength of the movie version of Thanos is not enough. The reason why he has so many reputation points is probably due to the bonus of the main storyline and the nature of the events. After all, if Lin Feng hadn't appeared, Thanos would probably have snapped his fingers. After the reward settlement was completed, Lin Feng couldn't help but start asking questions about the system. The system obviously concealed a lot of information from him. If these issues were not made clear, Lin Feng would not be able to sleep. Under Lin Feng's insistence and constant questioning, the system reluctantly revealed some information again. The reason why the exiles target the system is that only by completely depriving the system of its authority and functions will the system completely disappear. The exile has been doing something similar, collecting all system permissions and functions that are opposed to him. The 2 little bastards sent this time thought that Lin Feng's Kryptonian bloodline system was an ordinary system, but they didn't expect it to be the strongest system. Wait! Lin Feng suddenly waved his hand to interrupt. You can't even kill an exile, and you say you are the strongest system. The system nodded and replied with some pride, yes, my resources are even more than the other side's main system. Raymond Lam leaned back, what are you bragging about? I can't tell at all. It has the most resources. The system store only has a few things. The one that impressed me the most was that Black Widow's underwear. Lin Feng's eyes were full of contempt and disgust. The system was embarrassed. I'm telling the truth, dog host, think about it. If I wasn't the strongest one, how could I have given you the template of Superman in the first place? Hey! Lin Feng was stunned by these words. What he said was so right. In the novels that Lin Feng had read, the host was indeed made to grow up little by little, but he himself had touched Tianhu from the beginning. As for the things in the system store, you haven't looked at them carefully, host. After all, many of them have little effect on your Superman template. The system selectively puts everything related to Superman on the first level. Hee. Lin Feng sneered, Black Widow's underwear is also related to Superman. Can you please stop bringing this up? The system decisively changed the subject. Regarding the exile, the system really can't do anything about it. If the system does something, then my real data will be discovered by the first order super powerful exile. Host, you can't beat them now, so the system can't do anything. Using automatic defense is a helpless move, but it can prevent me from entering their site. If I'm discovered by a high-level exile, both you and I will be gone. In short, what the host needs now is to improve his strength as soon as possible. Because according to the system's calculations, one of the exile's ultimate goals is likely to be the blue planet outside the fourth wall. That is the world you originally lived in before you traveled through time. Lin Feng paused with his wrist holding the wine glass, a little dazed. Are you sure? Lin Feng was a little bit unbelieving. The system's words were like a bomb, shocking him to the point of being burnt on the outside and tender on the inside. Why would they target the blue star outside the fourth wall? Is there anything there that they covet? In Lin Feng's impression, there has never been any extraordinary power on the blue planet outside the fourth wall, and there is not even a person with special powers. How could the exile target blue star outside the fourth wall? The system knew what Lin Feng was thinking and continued, the blue star outside the fourth wall, although there are no extraordinary items or powers. But the blue star outside the fourth wall is the origin of all fantasy elements. Host, can you think about it? Whether it's the Marvel Universe, the DC Universe, or the anime universe, where do they come from? Lin Feng's eyes flickered. He instantly understood what the system meant and murmured, this is a story created by the residents of Blue Star outside the fourth wall. His breathing became increasingly rapid, and he had a terrible thought. That's right. They created them all. With one stroke of their pen, they can elevate you from the strength of an ant to the almighty universe level. If they really go outside the fourth wall, guess what the consequences will be? Chapter 71. Lin Feng was silent, his face turned ugly. If the exile really ran outside the fourth wall, then he could easily turn the entire universe into dust with one stroke. He somewhat regretted forcing the system to give him this information. Help, I'm still a child. So you let me travel through time and space just because I am a native outside the fourth wall? Lin Feng asked with a sad face. Yes, the system answered affirmatively. You come from outside the fourth wall and are unique in all universes. Even if they really wipe out all universes, you will not disappear. That is to say, the host has enough opportunities to counterattack. And the host does not need to worry too much. For countless years, the exiles have never found a way to go outside the fourth wall. Even though they have captured Deadpool from many universes, there has been no result. We still have plenty of time, so stay calm and develop. All right. Lin Feng sighed, digesting this scary information. The exile's ultimate goal is to reach the blue planet outside the fourth wall. Whatever their purpose is, it will not be a good result. Fortunately, I still have enough time to develop. Lin Feng is not a pessimistic person. He just makes the best of things. I thought my opening Superman template was a winner. Who knew it was an appetizer? Now Raymond Lam is more eager to upgrade the Superman template. The next day, Raymond Lam set off to return to his own Marvel Universe. When he left, he brought with him a bunch of gifts, all of which were given to him by Steve and others. Lin Feng felt a little embarrassed, so he took out the strengthening version of life leaves given by the system and gave a pack to each person. This thing is a strengthened version of the tea that Raymond Lam gave to Ancient One, and it's even more effective. Possessing excellent healing ability, all currently known diseases are no problem. It can also rejuvenate human cells. As long as there is breath left, it is basically not a problem to save the person. Everyone was surprised, but they all accepted it, with no intention of being polite to Lin Feng at all. The main reason is that the temptation of this thing is too strong. According to Lin Feng, it can also make people younger. No one can refuse it. It is worth mentioning that before leaving, Raymond Lam asked Tony for a Mark 85 nano battlesuit. Tony didn't want to give it to him at first, but when he saw the strengthened version of the Leaf of Life in his hand, he sighed and made one for him. He just told Lin Feng not to give him to the past Tony Stark because it would produce an unpredictable butterfly effect. Lin Feng nodded and agreed with a smile on his face, but he had other thoughts in his mind. He came from outside the fourth wall. This place is like his second home, and he doesn't want to see anything bad happen due to the mischief of the exiles. In order to prevent future troubles, Lin Feng felt that there were some things that required him to take the initiative. He wants to arm all the superheroes on Earth, at least to the extent that each of them can tear Thanos apart with their bare hands. An imperfect plan appeared in Lin Feng's mind. After saying goodbye to everyone, Lin Feng left the parallel universe in a flash of light. Under the guidance of the system, Lin Feng returned to a familiar place. The universe he traveled through. Nice, familiar outer space. System. Lin Feng called out. Where did you send the Silver Superman template? The system popped up. On a planet with life. I have its coordinates. Host, are you going to get it now? Lin Feng scratched his head, can't you take it back? No. Okay, I'll go home first and then look for it. I've been gone for 2 months. Susan and the others should be worried. Lin Feng thought it would be better to go back first. If he were to evolve into Silver Superman now, it would take another 2 months. If I don't tell Susan, she'll be worried. Moreover, Lin Feng had not had any rest for 2 months and needed to relax mentally. Anyway, the dog system has said that even if someone picks it up, they can't use it. This thing is bound to Lin Feng. After making his plan, Lin Feng leapt and flew towards the earth. At the moment, it was dark. Lin Feng descended silently from the sky and landed in his own villa. The lights in the villa were bright. Lin Feng took out the key and walked towards the front door. Susan was sitting in the villa, looking at the computer screen with a sad face. There is a piece of news on the computer screen. Tony Stark was attacked by unknown forces today. The villa on Maybury Street was devastated by helicopter fire. To date, Tony Stark's whereabouts are unknown, and there is even evidence that Iron Man Tony Stark is dead. This news was released in the afternoon, and Tony's villa was bombed today. Susan knew that Tony was one of Raymond Lamb's few friends, and she felt that Raymond Lamb would be very sad if Tony really died. But now no one knows where Lin Feng has gone and he cannot be contacted. She touched the wristband Lin Feng gave her with some hesitation. Maybe she could be of some help? Snap! The sudden sound of the door opening interrupted Susan's thoughts. Her heart moved, and she raised her little head and looked over. It's Raymond Lamb. Lin. You're back. Susan ran over happily, hugged Lin Feng and gave him a kiss. It is said that a short separation is better than a new marriage. After being separated for 2 months, the two still miss each other very much. Without having time to express her longing for Lin Feng after not seeing him for so many days, Susan quickly said hello and pulled him to the sofa. Lin. Something happened to Tony. Susan said, pulling the laptop over and showing it to Lin Feng. Lin Feng was stunned. Something happened to Tony? He quickly checked the news, reading 10 lines at a glance. On the computer screen, Tony Stark's shouting and the bombing of Marbury's villa were played back and forth in a loop. In the end, all major reports stated that Tony Stark's whereabouts were unclear, and his life or death was unknown. Lin Feng understood in his heart, isn't this the plot of Iron Man 3? Wow, Tony indeed. Not only did he publicly clamor for the so-called Mandarin, he also disclosed the address of his own villa. Really, the more skilled you are, the bolder you are? Raymond Lamb couldn't help but want to laugh, but then he thought, could Tony be suffering from anxiety disorder like in the original novel? Susan looked at Lin Feng in surprise. Lin. Why are you laughing? Did Raymond Lamb go crazy? His good friend was now in danger, and he could still laugh? Raymond Lamb waved his hands, don't worry, Tony is fine, he's still alive. You know. Susan was stunned for a moment, then nodded thoughtfully. He knew that Raymond Lamb had supervision and super hearing. When she first found out that Raymond Lamb could see through things, her face turned red with embarrassment. Lin Feng nodded, yes, I know. Lin Feng thought of the Mark 85 armor in his space, and an idea came to his mind. I'm going to go out and meet Tony. I'll be back in a minute. Hearing this, Susan pouted. She hadn't seen him for 2 months, and he was leaving right after he came back. But Susan knew that the business was more important, so she didn't stop it. Just like that, Lin Feng, who had just returned home and had no time to rest, embarked on another journey. Chapter 72. Late at night, on a quiet road, a black Audi driving at high speed suddenly stopped on the side of the road. Tony held the steering wheel, feeling an inexplicable palpitation, and he breathed heavily and uncontrollably. "What's the problem with the power supply?" Tony asked excitedly. "This is my battle suit, I can't." "Oh my god, it happens again." Tony pushed open the car door and collapsed on the ground. This is not the first time this symptom has occurred. When he learned that the battle suit could not be used, a panic came over him uncontrollably. Anxiety neurosis. Anxiety disorder for short. This symptom appeared after the Chitauri War. Unknown threats make Tony feel insecure all the time. As long as there is a sign of something wrong, even if the Chitauri or the Twister are mentioned, Tony will have a fit. Now, he is going to Manamai to find the Mandarin who destroyed his villa, but is told that the armor may not be able to start. Panic set in and Tony found it hard to breathe. "Tony." The voice of little Harry came from the other end of the phone. "Are you having another attack? I didn't mention the Twister." Tony's eyes widened and his breathing became more rapid. Yes, you just said it. You said you mentioned it when you didn't." Okay." Harry was a little embarrassed. "Oh my god," Tony panted violently, his brain was a little dizzy. "What should I do?" "Take a deep breath." "Tony, take a deep breath." Harry tried to guide Tony to relieve his symptoms. "You're a mechanic, right?" "Yes. I'm a mechanic." Tony answered breathlessly, which he had said when introducing himself to the little kid. Harry's voice came again, "Why don't you build something then?" This sentence made Tony stunned for a moment, and then his heart moved. Yes. He calls himself a mechanic and is proficient in mechanical manufacturing. It looks like an ordinary hardware tool store, but Tony can combine countless weapons. Even without armor, he is not completely defenseless. Why not build something to fight against Mandarin? As he thought about this, Tony's symptoms gradually eased, the inexplicable panic gradually subsided, and his breathing became steady. Tony nodded, his tone regaining some calmness. "Yeah, I'm a mechanic, maybe I should build something." But the next second, looking at the black figure flying from a distance, Tony suddenly had other ideas. "Okay, thanks, little brat. Maybe I have a better idea. Let's talk next time." After saying that, Tony ended the call, leaving Harry on the other end of the line looking confused. A better way? What is he talking about? Harry glanced at the Mark 42 which was charging. "Jarvis, do you know what he's talking about?" I don't know." Raymond Lamb, wearing a black battle suit, appeared in front of Tony. He saw Tony's attack from a distance and felt confused. With his presence, the Chitauri invasion was resolved almost at the lowest cost. There was no nuclear bomb and Tony did not fly out of the wormhole. How could he still suffer from anxiety? "Hey, Tony." Lin Feng suppressed the doubts in his heart and prepared to ask indirectly. "Why are you running out to this remote place by yourself on Christmas instead of having a party with Pepper?" After looking Tony's miserable appearance from head to toe, Raymond Lamb said in a very joking tone, "Did you make little Pepper angry again? She won't even let you sleep on the sofa." Tony deliberately threw out a few words and instantly forgot about the embarrassment just now. Yes. Pepper didn't like my Christmas present so she kicked me out of the house. As you can see, I can only run to this remote wilderness." Tony has been having so many troubles lately that he is too lazy to argue with Raymond Lamb. "What did you give that super big rabbit?" Lin Feng asked. He remembered that in the original book, Tony gave a very big, tall, and ridiculously big stuffed rabbit. This made Pepper Potts speechless. Did Tony think she was too young? Tony was confused for a moment. "How do you know?" The handsome guy was speechless. It was really that big bear rabbit. Who would like this thing? Except Tony. "Okay, let's stop talking about this. I saw the news." Lin Feng said, "Your house has been exposed. And there's something called Mandarin. You are also a talent. You just announced your address to the whole world." Hearing this, Tony sighed. He definitely knew that he was in the news and his information was published in the newspapers. "I'm kind of regretting this now. The news is almost holding a funeral for me." "It's not a big deal, just don't be so impulsive next time." Lin Feng smacked his lips. He also knew that Tony had a lot of troubles recently, and most of them were caused by anxiety disorder. After thinking about it, Lin Feng took out 2 small square boxes from the system space. He bought this on the way here. He handed one to Tony. Here. Tony took it subconsciously. What is this? A Christmas present. Tony said as he opened the box. When he saw what was in the box, Tony smiled. It's a cheeseburger. Well, this might be the best present I've ever received for Christmas this year. After saying that, Tony sat down on the floor again and started to eat the burger in his hand. Lin Feng was not a pretentious person either. He also took a burger and sat next to Tony. He started eating, and then asked his question casually, "Tell me, how did you develop anxiety?" Hearing Lin Feng's question, Tony paused while eating his hamburger. "How do you know everything?" "Hi." Lin Feng didn't answer, just stared at Tony and ate his burger. The two of them just sat on the ground and ate, and Lin Feng looked at Tony, waiting for him to speak. The silence was long and uncomfortable. After a while, Tony felt uncomfortable being stared at, and the burger in his hand no longer tasted good. Okay. Tony took a deep breath. He didn't intend to say it at first. After all, it was a bit embarrassing. "I don't know what to say. You may not know that the last time I fought with the Twister. It's that alien BD called Chitauri." Tony gestured with his hand. "Although I don't want to admit it, he left a very deep impression on me." Tony had a complicated expression on his face. He calmed down and continued to tell his story. "Lin Feng, you know I don't have your inhuman strength. I don't even know if my armor can withstand the next invasion. If they come back one day and you're not here, what are we going to do? I'm a little, well, I really don't want to admit it, it's a little embarrassing." I felt fear. After saying that, Tony let out a long breath, as if he relaxed completely. He only mentioned these words briefly in front of Xiao Leijiao. "Now that I say this to Raymond Lam, I feel relaxed. There's no shame in sharing your fears with your Superman friends." Raymond Lam nodded seriously without making fun of Tony. If Raymond Lam didn't have this Superman template, he would also be scared. After a moment of contemplation, Raymond Lam uttered a truth. "I can understand what you said. There is a good saying. All fear comes from insufficient firepower. You look like you have a phobia of insufficient firepower." Seeing Lin Feng's serious look, Tony was stunned and pondered over what Lin Feng said. "What he said makes a lot of sense. The watch is nice and suits you very well." Lin Feng joked, changing the heavy topic. Tony was wearing a children's watch on his hand, which was given to him by little brat Harry. "Seriously, Tony, do you need my help this time?" "You know, I can easily take care of that. What Mandarin?" Raymond Lam did not choose to help Tony directly. Tony is conceited and has a strong sense of self-esteem. The so-called Mandarin belongs to Tony. He respected Tony as a friend, and if Tony really needed it, he would ask. Chapter 73. No. Tony was silent for a while, but refused. "I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to twist that Mandarin's head off myself and let him know that I'm not someone you can mess with." When Tony first saw Raymond Lam flying over, he was planning to seek his help. However, after a conversation, Tony had a new idea and decided to face it all on his own. Definitely, Raymond Lam will use this as a backup plan. After speaking his mind, Tony relaxed. His friend could easily solve the current dilemma. It's just that he was unwilling to seek too much help from Lin Feng. "Tell me about yourself, what has been keeping you lingering for 2 months?" Tony brought up a new topic. It has been exactly 2 months since Lin Feng left last time. Before leaving, Raymond Lam also asked Tony to look after his girlfriend. "Hey!" Lin Feng looked up at the sky, recalled his experiences over the past few days, and suddenly laughed. "Are you sure you want to know?" Tony wondered, what's something I shouldn't know? "Okay, you may not believe it." Lin Feng sat on the ground, tapping his knees with his fingers, wanting to tell the truth but feeling a little hesitant. But after thinking about it, Lin Feng decided to tell it. After all, one of the reasons for bringing back Mark 85 was to let Tony quickly master the technology and replicate it. Mark 85 is just a large toy to Raymond Lam, but no man can resist this cool and unique thing. After Tony has finished his research, he will ask him to make a set for Susan. After all, platinum kryptonite is a bit of a waste to deal with some daily threats, and platinum kryptonite is not cheap. Although he can afford it, Lin Feng is unwilling to waste it. After organizing his thoughts, Lin Feng slowly said, I went to the future these past 2 months and met you in the future." These words were like thunder, making Tony feel that Raymond Lam was talking nonsense. Tony sat back and looked at Lin Feng as if he was a mentally retarded person. His expression was very speechless. "Is this some fairy tale? Perhaps you could tell Susan." "Maybe." Lin Feng touched his nose, took out his mobile phone, and started looking for pictures. He knew that Tony was a scientific research fanatic, and time travel and the like were hard to convince people without evidence. "Look at this, you'll never guess who she is." Lin Feng found a photo and handed the phone to Tony. "What is it?" Tony took the phone and looked at it. There was a bright light emanating from the phone screen, and in the center of the screen was a clear photo. In the picture, Raymond Lam is holding a little girl with long brown hair. The little girl happily made a scissors hand gesture to the camera. Looking at the photo of the little girl, Tony's brows gradually furrowed together. Suddenly, a strange feeling came over him. Tony felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity with this little girl. Patting his head, he didn't understand why he had such a feeling. She was just an ordinary little girl. Tony didn't quite understand why Raymond Lam showed him this. Could she be Raymond Lam's illegitimate daughter? "Who is this?" "Your illegitimate daughter." Tony raised his eyebrows and attacked mercilessly. "Does Susan know?" As soon as these words were spoken, Lin Feng was at a loss whether to laugh or cry. "Good man, you will regret saying this someday." "This is not my daughter." Lin Feng replied with a strange expression, and then threw out 5 big words like thunder. "This is your daughter." Tony did a tactical retreat, picked his ears, and had a lot of question marks on his forehead. "My daughter. Christmas is not April Fool's Day, man." Tony was speechless. He felt that Lin Feng was taking revenge on him for what he had just said. "You don't believe it?" Seeing that Tony didn't believe it, Lin Feng laughed out loud. "What are you talking about?" Tony rolled his eyes, not believing Lin Feng's nonsense. "Okay." Lin Feng stretched out his finger to turn the page of the photo, showing an evidence that Tony could not refute. The next photo still showed the little brown-haired girl, but the person holding her was Tony. WTF? Tony widened his eyes and looked at the hippie beard in the photo in surprise. "That is, myself?" Tony Stark in the photo looks older and more composed, a future version of himself. Seeing Lin Feng nodding seriously, Tony took a deep breath and said to Lin Feng seriously, "Lin, tell me this is a fake picture you made." Seeing that Tony still didn't want to believe it, Raymond Lam shook his head. His fingers constantly slid across the screen, and pictures of the future appeared in front of the two of them. Familiar Avengers, Steve, Natasha Romanoff, Hawkeye, and so on. The only difference from now is that the person in the photo appears more mature, and his cheeks have a hint of vicissitudes that are not there now. "This is indeed you, but it's you in 2023. Lin Feng affirmed. "I did go to the future, the future in a parallel universe." Tony looked at the photos one by one and exclaimed in his heart that it was unscientific. He didn't want to believe it, but the facts were there. Although traveling into the future sounds ridiculous, even current science cannot explain this phenomenon. But in Tony's mind, Raymond Lam has already gone beyond the scope of scientific explanation. His intuition constantly told him that all this was true. Looking at the photo, Tony took a deep breath and remained silent for a while. "Well, this is really incredible." Tony turned his gaze to Lin Feng's face, with a look of curiosity. "Did you break the barrier of time?" "Not really. There are many things involved and it's very complicated." Lin Feng didn't intend to explain too much. If he really had to explain, it would take too long. Tony shook his head. He knew that there was no reason for Lin Feng to tease him at this time. He looked at himself in the photo, hugging the little girl with a doting look on his face. "Is this really my daughter?" Tony's eyes flickered, and he used 2 fingers to zoom in and out of the photo. The originally ordinary little girl suddenly became beautiful and cute. "This is Tony Stark's daughter. So cute." After watching for a while, Tony suddenly thought of a question. "With whom?" "With Pepper." Raymond Lam's answer put Tony at ease. The little girl's innocent face made Tony's heart calmer than ever before. "Wow! I can't believe it. How are you? Are you feeling better?" Tony shook his head, then nodded, "Almost. I can't believe you went to the future. This is totally unscientific." Lin Feng chuckled, pointed at himself, and said, "There are so many unscientific things. Do you think I'm scientific?" "You? You are the most unscientific I have ever seen. Tony stared at Lin Feng. His physical fitness completely went against everything Tony had learned throughout his life. Lin Feng shrugged indifferently. That's it. Tony stretched out his finger and touched the screen, as if he wanted to touch the little girl's hair from a distance. You shouldn't tell me this, Lin. His face was a little serious. I shouldn't know this, it may cause an unpredictable butterfly effect. Tony's worries are not groundless. Knowing the future in advance will change the future. If something really went wrong and his daughter disappeared, Tony couldn't imagine how he would feel. Lin Feng waved his hand. Isn't this to treat your anxiety disorder? For Pepper Potts and your daughter Morgan, you have to overcome your anxiety, right? Besides, the matter is not as serious as you think. Morgan is your and Pepper's daughter, and no one can change this fact. Raymond Lamb said indifferently that even if Tony and Pepper's relationship really went wrong, they would get back together due to various reasons. After all, this is not the blue planet outside the fourth wall, there is such a thing as a script here. Simply put, it is the correction from the world line. Even if something really goes wrong, Raymond Lamb can use the mind gem to make Tony forget all the information about the future. Her name is Morgan? Little Morgan. Tony put aside his worries for the time being and asked curiously. Morgan Stark. Tony smiled like an old father and praised, what a good name. Lin Feng's face turned dark. How could this shameless guy praise himself? Should he say that he is worthy of being Tony Stark? Pulling back his phone, Lin Feng stood up and stretched, okay. I'm going back. Go deal with that Mandarin yourself. Seeing his phone being taken away, Tony opened his eyes and said, stop, I haven't seen enough. I'll send it to your email address later. Remember not to show it to anyone else. As he spoke, Lin Feng took out a triangular glowing object from his backpack and stuffed it into Tony's hand. I didn't want to give you this originally. But your armor seems to be offline. It can relieve your fear of insufficient firepower. Use it against your Mandarin. Tony took it subconsciously, a little confused. What is this? A not very thick metal sheet, a triangular glowing object that looked exactly like his small arc reactor. Chapter 74. Oh right. I just remembered that you probably won't be able to use it now. Come. I'll teach you how to use it. Lin Feng took the triangle back, pressed it on Tony's chest, and gently tapped the reactor twice. The next second, countless nanoparticles surged out like a tide of insects, scaring Tony. Wow wow wow, what is this? Tony looked at the changes happening to his body in amazement. The silver insect tide was very fast, constantly climbing along Tony's limbs. Nanotechnology. Tony, remember to return it to me after you use it. After saying this, Lin Feng floated into the air, patted his butt and flew away. After not seeing each other for 2 months, Lin Feng is still looking forward to going back and having an in-depth exchange with Susan. With this nano battle suit, Tony's safety and revenge plan are no problem at all. In a short while, nanoparticles spread all over Tony's body, and his appearance changed into gold and red. A future battlesuit full of science fiction and muscularity made its first appearance in an era that did not belong to it. The gold and red color scheme exclusive to Iron Man and the smoother muscle lines highlight the combination of strength and technology. Base. The indicator lights on the outer armor and the inside of the visor lit up continuously, lines of data began to scroll, and the battlesuit started self-checking. Sir. I'm connected. Before Tony could react, a voice came from inside the battlesuit. J.A.R.V.I.S. It's me, sir. Jarvis replied. The moment the nano battlesuit was formed, Jarvis connected it. Checking battlesuit data, sir. As soon as Jarvis came online, he started loading the battlesuit data without Tony's instructions. Data streams constantly flashed through the display inside the visor, and Tony observed his arms covered with battlesuits through the visor. The familiar combination of gold and red is his style. Compared to Tony's current armor, the curve of the arm is smoother and stronger. Tony lifted his foot and tried to take 2 steps. The first thing you feel is the incomparable smoothness, lightness, and flexibility. This point alone is unmatched by all his battlesuits so far. Could it be that this is a battlesuit made by my future self? Tony's eyes flickered, a light flashed through his mind, and he waited patiently for Jarvis's data check. It was just a few seconds, but it felt so long to Tony. The self-examination was soon over, and Jarvis' voice sounded again, "This is an incredible masterpiece. How did you create it?" As line after line of data was sorted out, even Jarvis, an artificial intelligence, was amazed. And its signature comes from a familiar line of English. Tony Stark. Tony also saw his name, and his heart beat uncontrollably faster with excitement. Release the battlesuit data first. Tony calmed his mind and ordered. At this point, Tony is extremely curious about what functions this battlesuit has. Data updated, battlesuit codename, Mark 85. Tony's heart moved. This number once again confirmed what he had thought in his heart. This battlesuit was made by his future self. This battlesuit uses nanotechnology and has backup nanoparticles to replenish it, which allows the battlesuit to self-repair when it is partially damaged. It's equipped with conventional weapons such as arm missiles and shoulder missiles. Possessing a field energy amplified proton cannon. Hand impact beam amplification device, impact pile, laser cutting device, nano alloy shield, energy shield. The nanomaterials that can be shape-shifted at will can be synthesized into melee weapons. Even carries medical spray and emergency repair refills, sir. Tony's breathing became rapid. Rows of data are listed inside the visor. Technologies that currently only exist in theory have been integrated into the battlesuit. It's simply better than all the steel battlesuits he has built so far. Mark 42 is no longer popular anymore. Flight ability that is several times faster than the speed of sound, and even has the ability to fight in space. Incredible destructive power and defensive performance. Also easy to use and versatile, and perfect endurance ability. Jarvis continued. The technology it possesses does not belong to the present, sir. I believe that this is a device made by you in the future. After all, the number it displays is MK85. That's right, I now completely believe that Lin Feng really took a trip to the future. Tony muttered as he looked at the scary armor data in front of him. This battlesuit is so sci-fi. It's so sci-fi that Tony feels like he's dreaming. But thinking that this nano battlesuit was built by his future self, Tony's blood boiled again. As expected of me. This battlesuit is a collection of all his ideas. It is simply perfect. Jarvis, include all Mark 85 technologies in the new battlesuit plan. Reverse engineer all the technology and make the nanoparticles first. Now, let's go talk to Mandarin first. After the excitement, Tony rushed into the sky wearing a new nano battlesuit and headed towards Manamai. At the moment, he was extremely confident about revenge. This came from the technology developed by himself in 2023. In this era, there was only one word to describe it, and that was crushing. With the support of Mark 85, Mandarin, including Killian behind him, will no longer be a deadly threat. Raymond Lam also knew this, so after throwing the Mark 85 to Tony, he quickly ran back home and spent time with Susan. After not seeing each other for 2 months, Raymond Lam is almost exhausted. On a dark and windy night, some people are on the road of revenge, while others are exploring the long-lost mystery. However, the happy Lin Feng didn't know at the moment that somewhere else, there was also a person whose face had turned black due to holding back his anger. On the aerospace carrier, Black Salted Egg looked at each report with a serious expression. It's another day of overtime. Sir. Hill pushed the door open with a new document in his hand. We observed that Lin Feng has returned to Blue Star. Do you need to contact him? Hill asked, putting down the folder in his hand. This is based on the information that Lin Feng revealed some time ago, and the details about Hydra. Nick Fury put down the document in his hand and did not look at the new document. His fingers constantly tapped the table, and Black Braised Egg felt very annoyed. There's no point in contacting him. Let's take down the remaining Hydra bases first. Let Steve, Natasha Romanoff, and Clint go. By the way, keep Bruce Banner on standby. Hopefully, we won't need his wrath this time. Hearing this, Hill nodded, and then thought of something. Should we call Tony Stark? Nick Fury waved his hand. Not for now. His butt is on fire now, let him solve his own problem first. Nick Fury keeps a constant watch on the latest developments of all superheroes. Tony's primary goal now is to resolve the recent controversy over Mandarin. Chapter 75. Hill nodded, took the order and left. Nick Fury picked up the document Hill had just handed over and started scanning it. The data marked several newly discovered Hydra bases. Pinching his eyebrows, Ludan felt a headache. After Lin Feng told him about the existence of Hydra, Nick Fury kept it in mind and constantly investigated it. He originally treated it with a half-believing and half-doubting attitude, but after checking it out, his blood pressure soared and he kept cursing. He didn't expect that Hydra was not actually destroyed, but was still accumulating its own strength in secret. It even jumped back and forth right under his nose. SHIELD has become a fishing net full of holes. During this period of time alone, many loyal Hydra dogs were discovered inside SHIELD. He had such a headache that he almost had to take sleeping pills to fall asleep. He might be the dumbest director of SHIELD. As for what else Lin Feng knows, it doesn't matter anymore. That guy won't reveal too much information. The most important thing now is to destroy all the Hydra bases found. Otherwise, the boiled egg won't sleep well. Hill conveyed Nick Fury's message completely. Orders were passed down quickly, and SHIELD's agents were on high alert. Large bases will wait and see for now, and detailed plans need to be made. Small bases were handed over to agents with outstanding abilities, while medium-sized bases were handled by the Avengers led by Steve. With the deployment of Agent Constant, a cleansing program targeting the Hydra base began. The actions and abilities of the agents still made Hai Ludan feel gratified. Overnight, 2 Hydra bases were destroyed by him. In the following days, news of successful purges came every day. This finally eased Nick Fury's gloomy face, which had been dark for quite a while. As intelligence is passed down, more Hydra bases will face devastating blows. The news of the destruction of many bases soon reached a Hydra fortress in Eastern Europe. Commanding this fortress is one of Hydra's leaders, Baron Strucker. Baron Strucker and Steve were old rivals as early as World War II. The Hydra fortress he is currently in charge of has top-notch configurations in terms of defense and combat abilities that are unmatched by other bases. Top fighters, top scientific researchers, and top intelligence personnel. But now Baron Strucker is staring at the news passed by his subordinates and is having a headache. The massive cleansing operation by SHIELD has already begun, and some bases have been destroyed just as they sent out distress messages. The Avengers' firepower has begun to spread, but his research has reached a bottleneck. An intelligence officer came jogging over, holding a piece of paper. "Sir, a medium-sized base in the west of Bolin has been captured. The attackers are the Avengers." Stark frowned, with a hint of irritation. He took the document without even looking at it, crumpled it up and threw it into the trash can. Seeing this, the intelligence officer shuddered and retreated in shame. Even a fool could see that the Baron was in a bad mood, and no one dared to offend him at this time. Stark tapped his fingers on the table, his movements exactly the same as Nick Fury's, and no one knew what he was thinking. After a while, Stark turned his head and ordered the guard beside him, "Call the twins over." "Forget it, just bring the woman over." After a moment's hesitation, Stark changed his orders. He had a plan, with a horribly low chance of success, but he had to try. The research has been stuck for a long time, and bad news keeps coming. He now desperately needs something to change the current situation. The Avengers are too powerful, and there is almost no one under his command who can compete with the Avengers. If the plan succeeds, the strength of his subordinates will increase significantly, and they can openly compete with SHIELD's superheroes. So even if the probability is very low, he will give it a try. "Sir." A Hydra scientist spoke cautiously after a slight hesitation. "Her ability cannot meet the mission requirements. The plan is almost impossible to succeed." As a scientist who was Strucker's confidant, he was extremely intelligent. They had discussed that thing countless times a long time ago, so he naturally knew what Baron Strucker was thinking. The ability to control the mind alone made the eyes of a group of scientific research fanatics light up. "After our tests, she can only control others for a short period of time. That's why we need that yellow gem, isn't it?" Stark asked back. The twins were the only 2 people who survived the experiment. In Strack's research experiments, a few rare materials were used to give 2 people slight super abilities to the maximum extent possible. To say that they were endowed might not be rigorous enough, because Strack was not sure whether the 2 of them originally possessed the potential for super abilities. After all, except for the twins, all other experimental subjects have died. Now, as long as he gets the gem, Stark can proceed to the next experiment. By then, maybe we can mass-produce people with super abilities. Thinking of this, Baron Strucker became more and more certain of his idea. According to its data, it can at least increase the ability of mind control by several times. It's worth taking the risk. Seeing Strucker's determination, the scientist sighed. He understood Strucker's thoughts. After hesitating for a moment, he reminded her, "I know what you mean, but the gem is in that person's hands now." Before he could finish, Stark started knocking on the table again in annoyance. Do you think I'm willing to snatch things from him? Stark's face was not looking good. He definitely knew who his men were talking about. Even though that person is not an Avenger, his strength is so great that even the Avengers combined are not enough to defeat him. Strucker would rather face S.H.I.E.L.D. than him. But in the current situation, he doesn't have so many options. It is better to take the initiative to try rather than passively accept a beating. Several bases have been destroyed. We don't have much time left. It's the only thing that can make us stronger right now. We have no other choice. Seeing this, the scientist stopped trying to persuade him, as he also knew the seriousness of the matter. Although the experimental subject's super ability was weak, the ability to temporarily control others gave Strucker some hope. While they were talking, the door was pushed open. The soldier who had just left came in with a young woman. A red jacket and a black skirt. There are hints of dark red in the long black hair. What is striking is the amazing big bear. It was the younger twin sister, Wanda. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.